Chapter 531. Unable to withstand a single blow, Lung Mian. Are there any formations set up at the place where Lu Wei's parents are? Although he was very anxious, Ningyu did not immediately go to see Lu Wei's parents. Instead, he asked, apart from Elder He, are there any other cultivators here? It was better to be safe than sorry. Moreover, Ningyu still felt that there was something wrong with Elder He. There's no formation. Lung Mian shook his head. This is the deepest part of Snow Domain Pavilion's forbidden area. Apart from Elder He, there's no one else here. That's good. There's no time to lose. Let's depart now. Since there was no one else here, Ningyu's apprehension was slightly alleviated. In the next moment, Lung Mian rose from the ground and quickly left the secret chamber. As for Ningyu, he carefully followed behind Lung Mian and extended his perception to ensure that he did not encounter anything similar to a restriction. Creak. Elder He's secret chamber was very close to the secret chamber where Lu Wei's parents were. It only took a minute for Ningyu to reach the secret chamber's door. Lung Mian took a step forward and slowly pushed the secret chamber's door open. I've said it before, unless you take out the rebirth pill. And who are you? As soon as Ningyu stepped into the secret chamber, the middle-aged man beside the stone bed spoke impatiently. However, the middle-aged man's voice stopped abruptly when he saw the unfamiliar figure in front of him. Senior, Lu Wei asked me to come here. The situation is critical, so please enter the storage ring quickly. Ningyu did not want to waste any time. The moment he stepped into the stone chamber, he threw the storage ring in his hand over his head. At the same time, a beam of light shot out from the storage ring. Miana, speak clearly. The middle-aged man naturally would not choose to believe Ningyu. Instead, he shouted in a deep voice. I don't have time to explain so much to you. In short, you did the right thing by entering the storage ring. Ningyu did not want to miss such a good opportunity. He immediately signaled Lung Mian with his eyes. Lung Mian understood and immediately flew to the side of the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man, who was also Lu Wei's father, had his cultivation sealed by Old Crane. He was now a man without the strength to truss a chicken. Under the pressure of Lung Mian's powerful aura, he was instantly defeated. Lung Mian grabbed Lu Wei's father and was about to throw him into his storage ring. Cold face, throw the stone bed into the storage ring as well. Ningyu's words rang in Lung Mian's ears. Lung Mian was stunned for a second. Then, he released his vital energy and wrapped the stone bed before throwing it into his storage ring. Ha! Seeing that Lu Wei's parents had entered the storage ring, Ningyu hurriedly put the storage ring back on his finger and let out a long sigh of relief. Go! Ningyu was not an indecisive person. Since he had already placed Lu Wei's parents in his storage ring, there was no need for him to stay any longer. He had to leave Snow Domain Pavilion before Elder He did. Otherwise, the situation would become very dangerous when Elder He arrived. Whoosh! Before Ningyu could move, a crack appeared in the space in front of him. Then, an old man appeared from the crack. The moment the old man appeared, Ningyu's pupils shrank, and he could not help but retreat. However, the old man's speed was obviously half a beat faster than Ningyu. As soon as Ningyu retreated, the old man punched Ningyu's chest with violent vital energy. At the critical moment, Ningyu hurriedly injected the vital energy in his sea of consciousness into his fist. With a backhand punch, it collided with the old man. Bam! Ningyu only felt a tearing pain in his fist. At the same time, his body was blasted several feet away. Oof! How dare you play tricks in front of me? I think you're tired of living. Elder He snorted. Do you think I don't know that Lung Mian is lying? To tell you the truth, I left just now because I wanted to see if there were any powerhouses from Donwu College. Unfortunately, I did not see any powerhouses from Donwu College. Although I admire your courage, I am very responsible to tell you that this day, next year, will be the anniversary of your death. Then, Elder He turned around and said to Lung Mian, as a member of the Imperial family, how dare you side with Ningyu? I will now give you a chance to turn over a new leaf. Kill Ningyu, and I will let bygones be bygones. Did you notice? Now, Ningyu had become unusually calm. so calm that it was a little scary. Lu Wei's parents were in the storage ring, so he had nothing to worry about. Most importantly, in front of Elder He, who was at the peak of Yin Yang realm, it would be harder than ascending to heaven if he wanted to escape. Since he could not escape, he would fight. Come out, all of you. Ningyu took a deep breath and shouted in a low voice. Swoosh! As soon as Ningyu's voice fell, several figures rushed out of the storage ring and landed in front of Ningyu. You've overestimated yourself. This time, Elder He did not waste any more time talking to Ningyu. He tore the void and appeared next to Ma Wei. He threw a punch, and it landed squarely on Ma Wei's heart. Ma Wei was only at the early stage of Yin Yang realm. Facing Elder He, who was at the peak of Yin Yang realm, there was almost no way for him to fight back. Gasp! Ma Wei's death made the rest of the people's faces turn ugly. The strength that Elder He displayed was too powerful. It was so powerful that it was hard for them to even think of fighting back. Damn it! What are you waiting for? Are you waiting for Elder He to take us down one by one? Seeing the Hall Master of Alchemy and the others in a daze, Ningyu shouted, Elder He is very powerful. Don't blame me if you're killed if you hold back. Attack! Hearing Ningyu's words, the Hall Master of Alchemy's heart skipped a beat. He hurriedly wrapped his soul power and primordial chi around his wrist and threw a punch at Elder He. Evil Eye! Beside him, the Evil Eye did not hold back at all. It immediately forced a drop of blood essence into its eye. Immediately, two beams of evil light shot out from Evil Eye's eyes and rushed toward Elder He. Cold Sun Punch. Lung Mian threw a punch and attacked Elder He from the side with Evil Eye and the Hall Master of Alchemy. Child's Play. Facing three powerful attacks coming at him, Elder He did not look nervous at all. Instead, he smirked and said, Today I'll show you what a true peak Yin Yang realm martial artist looks like. As soon as the word swordsman fell, a monstrous aura erupted from Elder He's body. As soon as the aura erupted, it split into three parts. One went for the Hall Master of Alchemy, one went for Evil Eye, and the last went for Lung Mian. Puffed, puffed, puffed. Three consecutive sounds of blood being spat were heard. Without a doubt, the Hall Master of Alchemy and the other two were defeated by Elder He. They did not even manage to withstand a single move. The defeat of the Hall Master of Alchemy and the others made Ningyu's heart sink to the bottom. Even someone as powerful as the Hall Master of Alchemy could not withstand a single move from Elder He. Today he was doomed. Ningyu, it's your turn now. Chapter 532. The Might of the Sword Array. You want to kill me? It won't be that easy. Ningyu was not one to sit and wait for death. Come out. As soon as Ningyu's voice fell, 98 flying swords flew out of the storage ring and landed in front of him. Swoosh! With a flick of his wrist, the red demon sword appeared in Ningyu's hand. You want to fight me with just 90 mystic grade flying swords? I have to say, you're really naive. The corners of Old He's mouth curled up when he saw the numerous flying swords hovering around Ningyu. Even a heaven-grade flying sword won't be of much use in front of a peak Yin Yang realm martial artist, let alone dozens of mystic flying swords. Formation. Ningyu glanced at Elder He and growled. He split his peak 5th grade soul power into 98 strands and sent them into the 98 mystic grade flying swords. Whoosh! Suddenly, the 98 mystic grade flying swords seemed to be injected with energy as they began to arrange themselves in the air in an orderly manner. It's a sword array. No wonder you're so confident. At that moment, Elder He's brows furrowed slightly. The sword array formed by 98 mystic grade flying swords, coupled with the control of Ningyu's peak 5th grade soul power, was indeed powerful. Even a late-stage Yin Yang realm martial artist might not be able to gain an advantage in the sword array. However, Elder He did not take the sword array to heart. After all, he was a peak Yin Yang realm martial artist. A sword array formed by 98 mystic grade flying swords was not much of a threat to him. Red Demon Sword. Elder He did not make a move immediately. Instead, he gave Ningyu enough time. Ningyu tossed the Red Demon Sword into the center of the sword formation, using it as the eye of the formation to support the sword formation. Hiss! The moment Ningyu took out the red demon sword, Elder He's expression changed drastically. With his peak yin-yang realm perception, he could naturally sense that the red demon sword was unusual. King-grade flying sword. However, as knowledgeable as Elder he was, he only noticed that the red demon sword had reached the king rank. He didn't know that the red demon sword was at the peak of the king rank. Otherwise, he would have made his move long ago. He definitely wouldn't have waited until now. Peak king rank flying sword were priceless and extremely rare. Go. While Old Crane was still in a daze, Ningyu raised his brows and hurriedly controlled the sword formation to attack Old Crane. Shio! 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 The 98 mystic grade flying swords charged at the front, while the red demon sword guarded the rear as the eye of the formation. Humph! Today, I will take away your sword formation. Elder he grunted coldly as he gazed at the sword formation that was approaching him ceaselessly. After that, a torrential wave of origin energy split into 98 strands with the intention of capturing all the profound rank flying swords in one go. As for Old Crane himself, he turned into an afterimage and rushed straight for the red demon sword. No matter what, the red demon sword was still a king-rank flying sword. It was very attractive to Elder Crane. I didn't expect to obtain a king-rank flying sword. What a pleasant surprise. Elder Crane was overjoyed inwardly. A king-rank flying sword was too important to him. If he had a king-rank flying sword, it would be of great help to him when he broke through to the manifestation realm in the future. After all, yin-yang realm martial artists needed to undergo a tribulation to break through to the manifestation realm. What? However, a fantasy was ultimately a fantasy. Dreams were plentiful, but reality was harsh. Elder Crane's expression changed drastically before he even reached the red demon sword. That was because he discovered that not only did his 98 strands of origin energy not gain the upper hand against the profound rank flying swords, but they were also devoured by the flying swords. 98 strands of origin energy were equivalent to 20% of the total origin energy in Elder Crane's body. Losing so much origin energy in one go enraged Elder Crane, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood. Now's the time. Just as Elder Crane spat out blood and his breathing became unstable, Ningyu's eyes turned cold and he growled, "Red Demon, if you don't come out now, when are you going to?" Swoosh! As soon as Ningyu's voice fell, a red figure suddenly rushed out of the red demon sword. The red figure was so fast that it appeared beside Elder Crane in the blink of an eye. Most importantly, the red figure was holding a small flying sword in its hand. The aura it contained was no weaker than the red demon sword. Elder Crane was indeed a peak yin-yang realm martial artist. He reacted quickly and summoned 20% of his origin energy to form a Yuan Qi shield in front of his chest. However, Elder Crane had obviously underestimated the power of the small flying sword. His Yuan Qi shield was instantly shattered by the small flying sword. Moreover, the small flying sword's power did not diminish as it charged at him again. Damn it! Elder Crane was extremely furious after losing origin energy one after another. He had lost 20% of his origin energy when he was fighting against the sword array. Now, he had underestimated the power of the small flying sword and lost another 20% of his origin energy. Now, Elder Crane only had 60% of his origin energy left. His strength had also decreased by a lot. Crack! After cursing inwardly, Old Crane punched out. Cracks appeared in the space in front of him, and a cracking sound rang out. Red Demon, come back! There was no way Ningyu would give Elder Crane a chance to succeed. Seeing Elder Crane attack like an enraged bull, Ningyu summoned Red Demon back. Upon hearing Ningyu's words, Red Demon did not dare to delay. He immediately turned around and retreated with all his might. You want to leave? Not so easy. Elder Crane was already furious. He would not allow Red Demon to escape just like that. The next moment, Elder Crane tore the void in front of him and appeared in front of Red Demon. He threw a punch, bringing with it a gust of origin energy that smashed at Red Demon's head. Swoosh! However, Elder Crane did not know that Red Demon was the sword spirit of the Red Demon sword. The Red Demon sword was a monarch flying sword at its peak, and it was now a king flying sword at its peak. Red Demon could tear the void in a short time as well. What? You can tear the void too? Elder Crane did not expect Red Demon to tear the void to escape. He did not expect that the red-robed man in front of him could tear the void even though his aura was not strong. This is infuriating. Red Demon tore the void and appeared in the center of the sword formation. Naturally, Elder Crane missed. Elder Crane clenched his fists, shaking with anger. He thought that he could kill Ningyu easily. Who would have thought that he could not even touch Ningyu's clothes? Moreover, he was toyed with by Ningyu time and again, causing him to lose 40% of his origin energy. This was intolerable. Elder Crane was completely enraged. The consequences of a peak Yin-Yang realm martial artist's anger were obvious. Ningyu, I've changed my mind. Not only will I kill you, but I'll also twist your head off and hang it on the city wall. Elder Crane's eyes were filled with viciousness. If I'm not wrong, your family is in Tianxian City. That's just a small place. What are you trying to do? Ningyu's heart skipped a beat. He said coldly, Elder Crane, if you dare touch my family, I'll kill you even if I'm severely injured. Chapter 533. Exploding lightning beads, this won't do. 99 flying swords aren't enough to kill old he. It'll be hard for me to fight him. Ningyu's eyes darted around as he tried to come up with a countermeasure. Although he had exhausted 40% of old he's primordial chi, Ningyu knew very well that he was still no match for old he with his current strength. In fact, it was still unknown if he could even withstand 3 moves from old he. I can only rely on myself now. Ningyu turned his head to look at the Hall Master and the others who were recuperating at full speed. His face darkened. Ever since they were defeated by old he, the Hall Master and the others had been recuperating at full speed. Fortunately, Oldie did not attack the Hall Master and the others. Otherwise, Ningyu would not be able to withstand it with his current strength. According to the Hall Master and the others, he would need at least half an hour to recover to his peak state. In other words, Ningyu could only rely on himself for the next half an hour. Eat my fist. While Ningyu was slightly distracted, Oldie dashed out and appeared in front of Ningyu in the blink of an eye. Following that, Oldie threw a punch that landed squarely on Ningyu's chest. Bam! The immense force from his chest forced Ningyu to take a few steps back before he could stabilize himself. Fortunately, Ningyu summoned the primordial chi in his sea of consciousness at the critical moment and gathered it on his chest. Otherwise, Oldie's punch alone would have been enough to make him suffer. Your primordial chi is so dense. Old Crane frowned when he saw that his punch did not kill Ningyu. He was slightly surprised. Come out. Naturally, Ningyu ignored old he's surprise. With a thought, he summoned the 7 golden cores in his sea of consciousness. What? When Oldie saw the 7 golden cores above Ningyu's head, his mouth was slightly agape with a look of disbelief. 7 golden cores? What kind of monster is Ningyu? Old Crane was dumbfounded. After all, he was a martial artist at the peak of Yin-Yang realm. However, he had never seen anyone with 7 golden cores. He had never even seen a martial artist with 2 golden elixirs. Do you think you can compete with me with 7 golden cores? After a brief moment of bewilderment, Old Crane said coldly, I'll show you what it means to be noisy. Before Old Crane's voice faded away, Ningyu let out a low growl. The 7 golden cores above his head suddenly erupted with 7 yuan chi light pillars, all of which gathered on his wrist. Seeing Ningyu's actions, the Red Fiend understood and hurriedly fused with the Red Fiend's sword, instantly appearing in front of Ningyu. Ningyu took a step forward and held the Red Fiend's sword in his hand. The vital energy on his wrist was frantically injected into the Red Fiend's sword. Solitaire. In the next moment, as Ningyu let out a deep roar, a waist-thick sword wave appeared in the air. Whoosh! As soon as the sword wave appeared, it swept toward Old Crane. Oh no! Old Crane, who had reached the peak of Yin-Yang realm, could not help but feel a headache when he felt the majestic vital energy contained in the sword wave. He would not be afraid if his vital energy was still at its peak. However, he only had 60% of his vital energy now, so it was still difficult for him to resist the sword wave. Rumble. At the critical moment, Old Crane gritted his teeth and once again summoned 20% of his vital energy to wrap around his fist, colliding with the sword wave. The result of the collision was beyond Old Crane's expectations. The sword wave was directly defeated and did not even have the slightest impact on him. Huh? What's going on? Why does the sword wave look so powerful, but it's so easy to resist? Old Crane frowned slightly surprised that Lin Fan was able to resist the sword wave's attack so easily. I was tricked. Seeing Old Crane's puzzled expression, Ningyu was secretly delighted, but he did not show it on his face. Although the solitaire that he had just executed looked powerful on the surface, it was actually a paper tiger with an extremely empty interior. In other words, the solitaire was just an empty shell used to bluff. Whether or not I can defeat or even kill Old Crane depends on this move. Ningyu took a deep breath and dashed out with the red demon sword in hand, appearing in front of Old Crane in the blink of an eye. Then, Ningyu stabbed the sword straight at Old Crane's neck. You're courting death. The fact that Ningyu was able to withstand the solitary sword wave easily made Old Crane look down on him. King-grade flying sword, give it to me. Old Crane ignored the red demon sword's power and reached out with his right hand to grab it. In Old Crane's mind, the red demon sword was already his. No one could take it away from him. Since you want the red demon sword so much, I'll give it to you. Ningyu's reaction was a little unexpected. With a flick of his wrist, Ningyu threw the red demon sword at Old Crane. Ningyu's sudden action stunned Old Crane. However, Old Crane was only stunned for a moment. Soon, he came back to his senses and was ecstatic. However, Old Crane was still cautious. He channeled the rest of his primal chi into his wrist, wanting to collect the red demon sword in one go. Ha ha! The king-grade flying sword is mine. Oh no! Old Crane could not help but laugh wildly when he saw that he was about to grab the red demon sword. However, before he could finish laughing, Old Crane's expression changed drastically. He saw a black bead suddenly fly out of the flying sword in front of him and arrive in front of him in the blink of an eye. Thunder Explosion Bead. The black bead that flew out of the red demon sword was the Thunder Explosion Bead. Old Crane, I prepared this Thunder Explosion Bead for you. Ningyu had obtained a total of 2 Thunder Explosion Beads from Old Tan and Black Whirlwind. He had used one against Poison Scorpion, so he still had one left. Although the Thunder Explosion Bead Ningyu had obtained was of the lowest grade, its power was equivalent to the self-destruction of an early-stage yin-yang realm martial artist. Damn it! Damn it! Old Crane's eyes finally revealed a trace of panic. At such a close distance, coupled with the fact that he had less than 60% of his primal chi left, it would be very difficult for him to withstand the aftermath of the Thunder Explosion Bead's explosion. Ningyu, the explosion of the Thunder Explosion Bead. F***CK. Old Crane originally wanted to say a few harsh words. After all, Ningyu was very close to him, and he believed that Ningyu would not be able to gain any advantage from such a close distance. However, when Old Crane saw that Ningyu had already made use of the Red Demon Sword's ability to tear through the void to run to the other side and join forces with the Alchemist Hall Master and the others to activate the 9 return to 1 sword formation, forming a dense protective net around them, Old Crane was dumbfounded. Old Crane, I specially prepared this Thunder Explosion Bead for you. On the other side, Ningyu's lips curled up into a smile. Enjoy the joy it brings you. Rumble. As soon as Ningyu's laughter faded, the Thunder Explosion Bead suddenly exploded. Come out. All of you come out. Old Crane bellowed when he saw the shockwaves of the explosion rushing toward him. He hurriedly released all the remaining primal chi in his body and formed a huge primal chi protective shield around him. The power of the Thunder Explosion Bead's explosion was similar to the self-destruction of an early-stage yin-yang realm martial artist. If it were any other time, Old Crane would definitely not be afraid. Chapter 534. Impossible to subdue rumble. The explosion of the lightning explosion pearl resounded in the secret chamber. A huge shockwave spread unscrupulously in all directions. Fortunately, Ningyu was prepared and used the sword array to block the shockwave. Otherwise, the situation would be very dangerous for him. When the first lightning explosion pearl exploded, Ningyu and the others relied on their spatial rings to block the shockwave. Since Ningyu didn't discuss it with the Hall Master and the others beforehand, he could only rely on the sword array to block the shockwave. Chi. Compared to Ningyu and the others, Elder Crane was in a much more difficult situation. Although he was using all his strength to block the shockwave was too strong. The Yuan Qi protective barrier he set up was almost instantly destroyed. He had no choice but to force out a few drops of blood essence to form a protective barrier in front of him. Elder Crane, didn't you notice something unusual in the shockwave of the lightning explosion pearl's explosion? Ningyu's voice rang in Elder Crane's ears while he was using all his strength to block the shockwave. Trying to distract me? Don't think I don't know what you're up to. Elder Crane snorted without hesitation. Once the shockwave of the explosion passes, you'll die. TSK. The ignorant are truly fearless. Ningyu shrugged and said indifferently, I'm warning you out of goodwill, but you don't appreciate it. Fine, don't blame me later. If you had a mid-grade lightning explosion pearl, I might have been injured by you. A low-grade lightning explosion pearl can't do anything to me. Not good. Elder Crane shouted coldly. However, before Elder Crane could finish his sentence, his expression changed drastically. Extreme fear appeared in his eyes. Swoosh! In the aftermath of the explosion, a blue flame suddenly sprang out and attacked Oldie's face. A flame on the Mystic Flame ranking. Elder Crane was experienced and knowledgeable, so he immediately noticed that the blue flame was unusual. It must be a flame on the Mystic Flame ranking. He even noticed some soul force fluctuations from the blue flames. In other words, not only did Ningyu use the flames on the exotic flame list, but he also used his peak 5th Great Soul power. The Indigo Spiritual Fire is ranked 280th on the Mystic Fire ranking. Coupled with my peak Grade 5 Soul Force, do you still have the confidence to withstand it? Ningyu added fuel to the fire when he saw Elder Crane's heart wavering. I warned you out of goodwill just now, but you didn't appreciate it. Are you regretting it now? Pucci. Old Crane was already regretting his decision. Now that he heard Ningyu's mocking words, he spat out a mouthful of blood and his chest heaved up and down. It was obvious that he had suffered a huge blow. When it rains, it pours. This was the best way to describe Old Crane. As he spat out a mouthful of blood, the blood essence defensive net in front of him was directly blasted apart by the shock waves of the Thunder Explosion Pearl's explosion. The Thunder Explosion Pearl had unleashed its last bit of power. After it blasted apart the blood essence defensive net, it tore off Old Crane's clothes, leaving his upper body bare. Old Crane couldn't be bothered to tidy up his tattered clothes. He quickly forced out a few more drops of his blood essence to resist the blue flames that were about to reach him. However, Old Crane had obviously underestimated the power of the blue flames this time. His blood essence only lasted for 0.1 seconds before it was defeated. Subsequently, the blue flames mixed with violent soul force fluctuations wreaked havoc on Old Crane's chest. Don't just stand there. Kill him while he's down. Seeing that the shock waves from the Thunder Explosion Pearl's explosion had dissipated, Ningyu immediately removed the sword formation and rushed toward Old Crane. Now is the best time to kill Old Crane. If he missed this opportunity, you wouldn't get another one. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Although the Alchemist Hall Master and the others hadn't recovered to their peak state, they didn't dare to be careless. They hurriedly followed behind Ningyu and rushed toward Old Crane. Old Crane's current strength wasn't even 1/10 of his peak state. Ningyu and the Alchemist Hall Master attacked in unison. It was almost a one-sided battle. Old Crane didn't last long before he was defeated by Ningyu and the others. The Alchemist Hall Master immediately sealed Old Crane's Sea of Consciousness and brought him to Ning Yu's side. He asked, Ning Yu, how should we deal with him? Should we settle him on the spot? Don't be anxious. I have a few questions to ask him. Ning Yu waved his hand, signaling the Alchemist Hall master not to be anxious. What information do you want from me? Stop your wishful thinking. I won't say anything. Old Crane snorted coldly in a rather unyielding manner. Sun Jiangwen. Old Crane's stubbornness caused Ning Yu to lose his patience and call Sun Jiangwen out. How confident are you that you can subdue him? Ning Yu paused for a moment before continuing. What I mean is, make him obediently tell me everything he knows. I'm afraid that will be a little difficult. Sun Jiangwen thought for a moment and shook his head. I have a way to subdue an advanced yin-yang stage martial artist, but this old man is a pinnacle yin-yang stage martial artist. I can't do anything. Ha ha. Ning Yu, what's the use of finding a pinnacle primal core martial artist? Although Old Crane was under Sun Jiangwen's control, he could still tell that Sun Jiangwen was a pinnacle primal core martial artist. Noisy. Ning Yu's face turned cold. His figure flashed and directly gave Old He a few slaps, causing Old He to see stars and be on the verge of collapse. If I can't subdue Old Crane, this will be a little tricky. Ning Yu fell into deep thought. Actually, Ning Yu's first thought was to kill Old Crane. After all, keeping a pinnacle yin-yang stage martial artist by his side was no different from carrying around a bomb that might explode at any time. After all, Old Crane was different from Black Whirlwind and Scorpion. If Black Whirlwind and Scorpion were killed, they could still blame it on the corpse insect powerhouses. Once Old Crane was killed, the consequences would be dire. Old Crane's status in the royal family was definitely not low. If he was killed, it would inevitably arouse Ouyang Ba's suspicion. If that happened, Ouyang Ba would search the entire city, and it would not be worth it. Lung Mian, how often does Old Crane meet with the royal family? After thinking about it, Ning Yu said in a deep voice, how do they meet? Did Old Crane go to the palace, or did someone from the palace come? I'm not sure. Sometimes it's 1 day, sometimes it's 3 days. Usually it's someone from the palace, but not long ago, Old Crane personally went to the palace and issued an order to arrest Lu Wei when he came back. Chapter 535. Chapter 535. Chapter 535. Dragon Guard. Oh, tell me about it. Ning Yu raised his eyebrows and said without batting an eyelid, I can tell you, but you have to swear a heavenly oath. Once I tell you the reason, you have to let me go, Old Crane said calmly, appearing to have a card up his sleeve. As long as you can hold on for another 3 minutes, you'll be in for a treat. Old Crane thought that he had found Ning Yu's weakness. Wouldn't delaying him for 3 to 4 minutes be a piece of cake? The tremor in the void earlier meant that the Imperial Palace was going to send someone over. Furthermore, the person they were going to send over had a high cultivation. At the very least, he would be at the peak late-stage yin-yang realm. Now that Ning Yu and the others were like arrows at the end of their flight, Old He believed that a peak late-stage yin-yang martial artist could easily kill Ning Yu and the others. You want me to make a heavenly law oath? Ning Yu was dumbfounded by Old Crane's words. Since when could prisoners be so arrogant? She actually wanted him to swear an oath to the heavenly Tao. Has she lost her mind? I've already saved Lu Wei's parents. If I ask them, I'll naturally know why your majesty wants to capture Lu Wei. Ning Yu shrugged and said indifferently, Fine, I was thinking of sparing your life. Since you're courting death, then don't blame me. Immediately, Ning Yu turned around and said to the Alchemist Hall master, Cripple his knowledge, see first, then we'll decide what to do next. Understood. The Hall Master Alchemist understood and immediately sent a wisp of his soul force into Old He's sea of knowledge. Ning Yu, you can't do this. Old Crane's eyes were filled with fear when he sensed a rather strong soul force entering his sea of consciousness. He hurriedly said, You are openly opposing the royal family by doing this. His Majesty will not let you go. Whether or not the Emperor will let me go, I don't know, but I know very well that I won't let you go now. Ning Yu's tone was cold, and he said to the Alchemist Hall Master, What are you waiting for? Ning Yu's cold words caused the Alchemist Hall Master to shiver uncontrollably. In the next moment, the eyes of the alchemist hall master turned cold as he controlled the strand of soul power in Elder He's sea of consciousness to wreak havoc. Ah, ah, Ningyu, you will die a horrible death. The heart-wrenching pain in his sea of consciousness made old He squeal like a pig being slaughtered. Elder He's screams were filled with despair. Although he was a martial artist at the peak of Yin-Yang realm, the destruction of his sea of consciousness meant that his life was over. Unless there was a peak 9th grade pill refiner who personally took action, coupled with a peak 9th grade pill refiner, there was only a glimmer of hope to heal his sea of consciousness. In the massive Great Xia Kingdom, an 8th grade alchemist was already a rare existence. A peak stage 9th grade alchemist? Not a single one. Therefore, the despair in Old Crane's eyes was understandable. Sun Jiangwen, Ningyu nodded when he saw that Old Crane's sea of consciousness had been destroyed. He asked in a deep voice, "How confident are you in subduing Old Crane now?" "I'm 100% confident." Sun Jiangwen did not dare to be negligent. It was a piece of cake for Sun Jiangwen to subdue a cripple whose sea of consciousness had been destroyed. "Then why are you telling me that you can't subdue him when I asked you earlier?" Ningyu looked displeased. If he knew that he could subdue Old Crane by destroying his sea of consciousness, he would not have wasted so much time. "I thought you wanted to preserve his combat strength," Sun Jiangwen mumbled. In Sun Jiangwen's opinion, subduing a cripple was useless. It would only be a waste of origin crystals. "What are you mumbling about? Hurry up and do it," Ningyu said coldly. Yes. Sun Jiangwen quickly gathered his thoughts and waved his sleeve. He immediately wrapped Old He up and put him into the storage ring. After Sun Jiangwen and the others disappeared, Ningyu thought for a moment and said, "The rest of you go into the storage ring too. Lung Yin stays behind. I have something to ask him." Swoosh! Swoosh! The hall master of the alchemy division and the others followed closely behind Sun Jiangwen and entered the storage ring. At this moment, only Ning Yu and Lung Yin were left in the originally bustling secret chamber. "Lung Yin, what's the cultivation base of the martial artists sent by the Imperial Palace to contact you?" Ning Yu asked with a frown. "Generally speaking, their cultivation bases are around the early stage Yin-Yang realm, but we can't rule out." "Oh no," Lung Yin said after pondering for a moment. However, Lung Yin's expression changed drastically before he could finish his sentence. "Oh no, the martial artists sent by the Imperial Palace have reached the first line of defense." "What's their cultivation base?" Ningyu asked in a deep voice. "The peak late stage Yin-Yang realm," Lung Yin replied. "Let's go. We'll use the teleportation array to go to the Evil Cloud Pavilion first. You find a way to lure that martial artist to the Evil Cloud Pavilion." Ningyu immediately rushed out of the secret chamber and headed toward the secret chamber where Old He was. The teleportation array was in Old He's secret chamber, and they could reach the Evil Cloud Pavilion quickly from there. Ningyu knew very well that he was no match for a martial artist at the peak late-stage Yin-Yang realm in his current physical condition. He could only retreat in order to advance. He would lure that martial artist to the Evil Cloud Pavilion first, then find a way to activate the Evil Cloud Pavilion's array formation to deal with him. Within half an hour in the Evil Cloud Pavilion's bronze secret chamber, the mysterious man had not only taught Ningyu the 9 return to 1 sword array, but he had also told Ningyu the method to activate the Evil Cloud Pavilion's internal array formation. As long as he could activate the internal array formation, Ningyu was confident that he could fight a martial artist at the peak of Yin-Yang realm. "Open the passage." At the same time, a middle-aged man at the Snow Pavilion's first line of defense said in a deep voice, "I want to see Old He." Token. Although the middle-aged man's cultivation base was at the peak late-stage Yin-Yang realm, the martial artist guarding the passage still extended his hand and said calmly, "No one can pass without the token." Swoosh! The middle-aged man waved his sleeve, and a golden token shot out. Smack! The slightly plump martial artist took the token and looked at it. Then, his expression became extremely respectful as he said, "I'll open the passage now." Then, the slightly plump martial artist personally took out 2 supreme-grade origin crystals and threw them into the hole in the passage. Swoosh! As soon as the passage was opened, the middle-aged man's figure flashed, and he went in. After the middle-aged man disappeared, an early-stage Yin-Yang realm martial artist next to him came over and asked, "Who was that? You've never been so respectful to Master Scorpion." The slightly plump martial artist did not answer immediately. Instead, he took a deep breath and said slowly, "Have you heard of the Hidden Dragon Guards? If I'm not mistaken, that person should be the deputy captain of the Hidden Dragon Guards." Hidden Dragon Guards. Hearing this, the other three early Yin-Yang stage martial artists sucked in a breath of cold air. They had heard of the Hidden Dragon Guards before. They were Ouyang Ba's Imperial Guards, and they answered directly to Ouyang Ba. They held great power, and they could act first and report later. Chapter 536. Chapter 536 of WR Take Advantage of an Opportunity Whoosh. In the narrow passageway, a martial artist moved extremely fast, almost using all the strength in his body. This cultivator was none other than Lung Mian, who had rushed over from the Evil Cloud Pavilion at full speed. After arriving at the Evil Cloud Pavilion from the deepest part of the Snowfield Pavilion's Forbidden Land, Lung Mian rushed to the first line of defense without stopping. The order Ningyu gave him was very simple, with only a few words. "Lure the Evil Cloud Pavilion here." A martial artist at the peak of the late-stage Yin-Yang realm was not easy to deceive. Even though Lung Mian's cultivation was also at the late-stage Yin-Yang realm, he could not help but feel a headache at this moment. The slightest carelessness would expose the fact that he was being controlled. Right now, his fate was in the hands of Ningyu. Once he was exposed, Ningyu would definitely abandon him. After all, in the entire Snow Domain Pavilion, only he knew Ningyu's true identity and could contact the outside world. Halt! Suddenly, Lung Mian's heart turned cold, and he hurriedly stopped. Lung Mian was extremely shocked as he looked at the cultivator who had appeared out of nowhere. In fact, it was no wonder that Lung Mian was shocked because the middle-aged man had appeared without a sound. Even with his powerful perception, he did not notice any clues. One must know that even if Old Crane were to appear, he would still be able to detect some clues. In other words, the middle-aged man in front of him was probably even stronger than Elder He. Lung Mian was extremely shocked. He took a deep breath and followed Ningyu's instructions with a cold face. "This is the forbidden area of the Snow Domain Pavilion. What do you want?" "Peak late-stage Yin-Yang realm. The Yuan Qi in his body is weak and superficial." The middle-aged man didn't answer Lung Mian's question. Instead, he stared at Lung Mian for a while before saying, "Looks like it's time to talk to Elder He. If it doesn't work, then the Hidden Dragon Guard will take over Snow Domain Pavilion." "What? You're from the Hidden Dragon Guards?" Hearing that, Lung Mian's mouth opened slightly, revealing a look of disbelief. The Hidden Dragon Guard was a mysterious organization. It was rumored that the requirements to be selected were extremely strict. The lowest cultivation level was the early Yin-Yang realm. Furthermore, the Hidden Dragon Guards were directly under the command of the Emperor of the Great Xia Kingdom. It could be said that they were the left and right arms of the Emperor. The martial artist in front of him was at the peak late-stage Yin-Yang realm. It seemed that his position in the Hidden Dragon Guards was not low. "What's there to be surprised about? Take me to see Old Crane. I don't have time to waste here with you." The middle-aged man waved his hand and gestured for Lung Mian to lead the way. "Why aren't you leaving?" Seeing Lung Mian standing there, the middle-aged man's face turned gloomy. It seemed that under Elder He's jurisdiction, the Snow Region Pavilion's martial artists were not only weak, but also arrogant. This time, no matter what, he had to fix the Snow Domain Pavilion. The middle-aged man thought. "You said that you are from the Hidden Dragon Guard. What proof do you have?" Lung Mian said in a deep voice, not giving any face to the middle-aged man. "Oomph." The middle-aged man snorted coldly when he heard Lung Mian's words. He flicked his sleeve, and a golden token was thrown towards Lung Mian. "Ha!" Lung Mian reacted quickly and grabbed the token in his hand. "You are the vice captain of the Hidden Dragon Guards. When Lung Mian saw the large words on the golden token, his heart skipped a beat. He quickly said, "Old he is at the Evil Cloud Pavilion. I'll bring you to see him now. Lead the way." The middle-aged man said in a deep voice. Lung Mian did not dare to delay. His figure flashed as he flew toward the Evil Cloud Pavilion. Lung Mian knew his strength very well. In the Hidden Dragon Guards, he could only be considered a middle-level member at best. However, the middle-aged man in front of him could become the vice-captain of the Hidden Dragon Guards with a cultivation base at the peak of the late-stage Yin-Yang realm. This showed that he was very powerful. The vice-captain of the Hidden Dragon Guards. Since the middle-aged man was the vice-captain of the Hidden Dragon Guards, Lung Mian began to think. Being controlled by Ningyu, he was almost like a puppet. The middle-aged man might be able to remove Ningyu's control over him and free him. However, as soon as this thought appeared in Lung Mian's mind, he felt a heart-wrenching pain that made him tremble. The heart-wrenching pain only lasted for a second before it disappeared. Although the pain had disappeared, Lung Mian still felt waves of fear. He had been discovered by Ningyu. Fortunately, he was flying at full speed, and the middle-aged man's attention was not on him. Otherwise, he could almost imagine the consequences. Ningyu would definitely abandon him and use him to injure the middle-aged man. After being reminded by Ningyu, Lung Mian became well-behaved. He did not dare to let his imagination run wild and immediately sped up toward the Evil Cloud Pavilion. Swoosh! Swoosh! Lung Mian and the middle-aged man were very fast. They arrived at the Evil Cloud Pavilion in a short while. Wait! The middle-aged man stood in front of the Evil Cloud Pavilion and did not enter immediately. As the vice-captain of the Hidden Dragon Guards, the middle-aged man was unusually calm and careful. He released his perception, wanting to explore the so-called Evil Cloud Pavilion. After a while, the middle-aged man retracted his perception and said, "Lead the way." In the hall of the Evil Cloud Pavilion, Ningyu sat on the main seat. At this moment, Ningyu's entire body was wrapped in a black robe. He emitted an aura at the peak of the Yin-Yang realm. This aura was exactly the same as Old Crane's. There was no difference at all. Swoosh! Since the door of the hall where Ningyu sat was not closed, the middle-aged man followed the aura to the front of the hall as soon as he entered the Evil Cloud Pavilion. Moreover, the middle-aged man did not linger in front of the hall. He turned into a shadow and flew into the hall. "You, Old Crane?" After entering the hall, the middle-aged man frowned slightly. He stared at Ningyu, who sat on the main seat, with a displeased expression. "How dare you sit there calmly after seeing me? What's going on? Doesn't he know Old Crane?" Ningyu was very confused. Based on the middle-aged man's words, it seemed like he had never seen Old Crane before. If that was the case, things would be easier to handle. With that thought in mind, Ningyu said calmly, "May I know why you've come to the Snow Pavilion?" The middle-aged man was the vice-captain of the Hidden Dragon Guards. In terms of strength, he was slightly stronger than Old Crane. In terms of status, he was not inferior to Old Crane. Old Crane's condescending attitude made the middle-aged man very unhappy. Since he was unhappy, the middle-aged man decided to teach Old Crane a lesson. After scoffing, the middle-aged man tore open the void and walked in. Bam! However, as soon as the middle-aged man entered the void, he seemed to be hit by something. He was forcefully squeezed out of the void. It was obvious that the middle-aged man had crashed hard on the ground and fell face first. F***CK. Coincidentally, Lung Mian saw the middle-aged man falling on the ground, causing him to curse. The middle-aged man was the vice-captain of the Hidden Dragon Guards. His cultivation base was at the peak of the Yin-Yang realm. What kind of trick did Ningyu use to defeat him? One must know that Ningyu had just gone through a huge battle and was still in a weakened state. Dawn. Chapter 537. The wind rises. The thumping sound of Ningyu knocking on the chair entered the middle-aged man's ears, causing his expression to darken. He had never expected Old Crane to be so powerful. Could it be that he has already advanced to the half-step to creation realm? Although the middle-aged man was very strong, he was no match for a martial artist who was half a step into the manifestation realm. No, His cultivation is only at the peak of the yin-yang realm, or even just an ordinary peak of the yin-yang realm. Soon enough, the middle-aged man rejected the idea. From the aura that old he emitted, the middle-aged man could tell that old he was only a peak yin-yang realm martial artist. There are two main reasons why I'm here. The middle-aged man was able to keep his composure. After he stood up from the ground, he patted his clothes and said, "The first thing is to get Lu Wei before tomorrow night." Excuse me. Ningyu waved his hand and interrupted the middle-aged man, asking, "Before you speak, can you introduce yourself first? Don't you think it's rude?" Crack. It was one thing to be interrupted by Ningyu, but Ningyu's tone made the middle-aged man very unhappy. Although he was unhappy, the middle-aged man took a deep breath and said, "I'm Zhou Tao, the deputy captain of the Hidden Dragon Guards. I'm at the peak late-stage yin-yang realm. I'm here on the Emperor's order. I have two things to tell you." "Oh, so his name is Zhou Tao. I thought he didn't have a name." Ningyu nodded and said, "Now you can tell me what those two things are." "The first thing is to send Lu Wei to the Imperial Palace before tomorrow night," Zhou Tao said coldly. "This matter is a little tricky. If Lu Wei hides in Danwu College, I don't have much of a solution." Ningyu imitated Elder He's tone and said, "Go back and tell His Majesty that I will do my best in this matter. I won't let him down. Tell His Majesty when the time comes." Zhou Tao didn't care what Ningyu said. After all, this was not his main purpose for coming to the Snow Pavilion. He was just mentioning it in passing. The second matter is that the third prince was killed by someone from the Assassination Pavilion. His Majesty wants you to go to the Assassination Pavilion. Zhou Tao continued, "Personally investigate the matter of the third prince's death. Even the third prince was killed." Hearing Zhou Tao's words, Ningyu revealed an exaggerated expression. "Not long ago, my Black Whirlwind was also killed. All signs point to the corpse sect being the one who killed Black Whirlwind. In any case, Zhou Tao was the vice-captain of the Hidden Dragon Guards. At this time, Ningyu blamed Black Whirlwind's death on the Yin Corpse sect. Even if he killed Old He in the future, it wouldn't be too abrupt. Not long ago, the people I sent came back with news that several experts of the Corpsine sect were found in the forest outside the capital." At this point, Ningyu paused for a bit before continuing. "Captain Zhou, are you interested in coming with me to meet the people from the Corpse sect?" In the end, Ningyu added, "The strength of those experts from the Corpsine sect is not too strong. The weakest is about the same as you." Yes. Ningyu's words caused Zhou Tao to suck in a breath of cold air. The weakest was on par with him? Didn't that mean that all the powerful cultivators of the Corpsine sect had come out? If all the experts of the Corpsine sect were to move, it would be a great challenge for the Imperial family and the Hidden Dragon Guards. After all, the experts of the Corpsine sect wouldn't come to the capital for no reason. Since they came, there was an 80% chance that they were here to assassinate the Emperor. Thinking of this, Zhou Tao said in a deep voice, "I will report this matter to His Majesty and let him decide. I advise you not to act rashly. If you act rashly and alert them, the consequences are not something you can bear." Buzz. Just at this moment, Zhou Tao's expression changed. He quickly took out a crystal ball from his pocket. With Ningyu's eyesight, he could naturally see a line of small words on the crystal ball. "Traces of the experts of the Corpsine sect have been discovered. Return to the Imperial Palace immediately." Seeing the words on the crystal ball, Ningyu was dumbfounded. Did his casual words really come true? The Corpsine sect really sent experts to the capital? "Old Crane, I have already passed on the message. As for whether you listen or not, it has nothing to do with me." Zhou Tao put away the crystal ball and said to Ningyu, "There are two things I need to do. Send Lu Wei to the Imperial Palace tomorrow night, and personally go to the Assassination Pavilion to investigate the matter of the third prince's death." Swish! As his voice fell, Zhou Tao's figure flashed, and he immediately rushed out of the main hall. The pressure here was too great for Zhou Tao. He felt as if he was trapped in a cage, and it was very uncomfortable. It was naturally excellent to be able to leave quickly. Ningyu did not stop Zhou Tao from leaving. After all, it was really unwise to trap Zhou Tao at this critical juncture. Dong dong. After Zhou Tao left, Ningyu habitually knocked his finger on the chair, making a dong-dong sound. After a while, Ningyu said to Lung Mian, "Find a way to contact Qing Wu and the pale-faced scholar. See where they are. If possible, make them return to the Snow Domain Pavilion tomorrow morning." Yes. As soon as Ningyu's voice fell, Lung Mian's heart skipped a beat. He had vaguely guessed what Ningyu was going to do. If there was no accident, Ningyu definitely wanted to control Qing Wu and the pale-faced scholar. Lung Mian knew very well that Qing Wu and the pale-faced scholar were both late-stage Yin-Yang realm martial artists like him. Their strength was much stronger than his. With Ningyu's means, controlling Qing Wu and the pale-faced scholar was much better than controlling him. Ningyu, that, however, before Lung Mian could leave the hall, Sun Jiangwen's words rang in Ningyu's mind. There aren't enough crystals. What? Ningyu stood up from the chair with a swoosh, his face full of disbelief. Say that again. Ningyu's sudden action made Lung Mian a little dumbfounded as he stood on the spot in a daze. There's clearly more in the storage ring. F***CK. Where did the transcendent grade crystals in the storage ring go? Ningyu extended his perception and quietly entered the storage ring. However, when Ningyu saw that there were only a few hundred transcendent grade crystals left in the storage ring, he was immediately dumbfounded. Wasn't this too F***king ridiculous? Wasn't there still more than 400,000 transcendent grade crystals in the storage ring? Why was there suddenly only a few hundred left? All the transcendent grade crystals were taken by the Dark Emperor. He only left me 20,000 transcendent grade crystals. Sun Jiangwen began to complain. The two formations in the storage ring consume a large number of transcendent grade crystals at every moment. Moreover, if you want Elder He to be obedient to you, you need at least 100,000 transcendent grade crystals. 100,000? Why don't you go rob me? Ningyu went berserk on the spot. Sun Jiangwen once said that it consumed 20,000 transcendent grade crystals to control Lung Mian. This number was still acceptable to Ningyu. After all, Lung Mian was a late-stage Yin-Yang realm martial artist with strong combat power. However, what the hell was with Elder He? Elder He's Sea of Consciousness was destroyed, and controlling a piece of trash required 100,000 transcendent grade crystals. Most importantly, Sun Jiangwen had already used 20,000 transcendent grade crystals. Chapter 538. Preparation. Old Crane is a martial artist at the peak of the Yin-Yang realm. Although his Sea of Consciousness has been destroyed, if you want him to be obedient to you, you will need at least 100,000 supreme grade essence crystals. Sun Jiangwen felt a little wronged. With his ability, he could only control late-stage Yin-Yang realm martial artists at most. If one were to control a martial artist at the peak of the Yin-Yang realm, even if that martial artist's Sea of Consciousness was destroyed, it would still require 100,000 transcendent grade essence crystals. Let's do this for now. When I have the remaining 80,000 origin crystals, you can go and control Old He. At this point, Ningyu could only compromise. Since he had already used up 20,000 transcendent grade essence crystals, if he were to stop like this, he would inevitably suffer a loss. Moreover, Old Crane's status in the Imperial family should be quite high, so he should be able to obtain some useful information from him. Pucci. However, what Sun Jiangwen said next caused Ningyu to vomit a mouthful of blood. You must find 80,000 supreme grade origin crystals within half an hour. Otherwise, you'll need to double the amount of origin crystals you'll need to control Old He. Sun Jiangwen carefully extended 2 fingers and said, 200,000 supreme grade essence crystals. Come out. I promise I won't kill you. Ningyu flicked his wrist and tossed the storage ring into the air. Whoosh. In the next instant, Sun Jiangwen flew out from the storage ring. What do you think I should do now? Where do you expect me to find 80,000 transcendent grade origin crystals in half an hour? Ningyu wished he could slap Sun Jiangwen a few times. Only he could think of finding 80,000 transcendent grade essence crystals in half an hour. Seeing that Ningyu was enraged, Sun Jiangwen stood still, not daring to breathe loudly. Sun Jiangwen was not a fool. If he spoke now, he would definitely be scolded by Ningyu, so he might as well play dumb. Lung Mian, how many transcendent great essence crystals are there in the Snow Domain Pavilion? After thinking for a while, Ningyu said to Lung Mian, don't contact Qing Wu and the others for now. Give me all the Supreme Yuan crystals from the Snow Pavilion. I need them urgently. Hearing Ningyu's words, Sun Jiangwen awkwardly scratched his head and said, when we took over Shuiyu Pavilion, we emptied it of all its resources. Right now, Shuiyu Pavilion is just an empty shell. We can't even find a single Supreme Yuan crystal. F*CK. Ningyu couldn't help but swear. This was too F*King unfortunate. Was Elder He born in the year of the mouse? He actually emptied Snow Domain Pavilion's resources. Do you have any Supreme Origin crystals on you? If you do, take them out. Ningyu placed his hopes on Lung Mian and the others. But unfortunately, Lung Mian, the Alchemist Hall Master, and the others added up, they only managed to gather less than 1,000 transcendent grade essence crystals. This made Ningyu suspect that they were hiding something. One had to know that Gue heir from the Corpse Sex Ghost Palace had 800,000 transcendent grade essence crystals on him. Why did these Yin-Yang realm martial artists only have a few hundred transcendent grade essence crystals? If the Alchemist Hall Master and the others knew what Ningyu was thinking, they would probably vomit blood. The reason why Gue heir had so many transcendent grade essence crystals was completely because of his dog *T luck. He obtained them from an ancient cave abode. An ordinary martial artist would be lucky to have 10,000 transcendent grade essence crystals, let alone 800,000. Ningyu, why don't we make a trip to the Assassination Pavilion? There should be a lot of transcendent grade essence crystals there. Lung Mian hesitated and said, we can go there in the name of investigating the third prince's murder. It'll be a piece of cake to extort 100,000 transcendent grade essence crystals. Let's go there a few times. With our current strength and condition, I don't think we can even enter the forbidden area of the Assassination Pavilion. Ningyu directly rejected Lung Mian and said, let's go to Danwu College. There was no way they could get 80,000 transcendent grade essence crystals in half an hour. Instead of waiting here, they might as well return to Danwu College first. Ningyu estimated that as long as he could find the energy equivalent to 80,000 transcendent grade essence crystals, he should be able to help Sun Jiangwen control Old Crane. In fact, Ningyu chose to return to Danwu College this time out of many considerations. First, he wanted to see Lu Wei and tell her that he had already rescued her parents and that there was no need to come to Snow Domain Pavilion before tomorrow night. Second, he wanted to see the first dean of Danwu College, Wei Zongtian. Ningyu was also curious about what exactly was inside the golden box he obtained for Frost Manor. The current Ningyu's strength had improved significantly compared to the first time he met Wei Zongtian. With his strength, Ningyu naturally wouldn't be afraid of Wei Zongtian snatching the golden box away. Moreover, the one Wei Zongtian left in Danwu College's Danwu Pool was only a phantom image and not a physical body swish. Although he was going to Danwu College, Ningyu didn't leave Snow Domain Pavilion immediately. Instead, he disguised himself as Old Crane and took a stroll outside the capital. Ningyu also had Lung Mian spread the news that Old Crane left Snow Domain Pavilion because of Black Whirlwind's death. Ningyu wanted to create a false impression that Old Crane left Snow Domain Pavilion to investigate Black Whirlwind's death. In any case, those who knew that Old Crane was captured were all in the storage ring. They wouldn't dare to say anything even if they were given 8 guts. Ningyu didn't dare to stay outside the capital for too long. After all, he only had half an hour left. Once half an hour passed, he would need to spend 200,000 transcendent grade essence crystals to control Old Crane. I must go there tomorrow. While Ningyu was rushing to Danwu College, Danwu College's Sacred Institute, Dongfang Ji's room, a young woman's face showed a strong determination. My parents are in Snow Domain Pavilion. If I don't go there, I won't be able to feel at ease for the rest of my life. Don't mess around. Dongfang Ji was having a headache. He knew that there were many Yin-Yang realm martial artists among the mysterious forces that occupied Snow Domain Pavilion. There were no less than 10. There was even a pinnacle Yin-Yang realm martial artist among them. Not to mention Lu Wei. Even if he went there personally, he wouldn't be able to rescue Lu Wei's parents. Ningyu sent you here because he trusts me. Before Ningyu returns, you better stay in the room obediently. Don't go anywhere, Dongfang Ji said solemnly. Dongfang Ji said solemnly. As for the matter of your parents, I'll go discuss it with the higher-ups of the Danwu Academy to see if there's a better solution. Although Dongfang Ji said so, he knew very well that this matter was most likely going to fall through. There were many factions in Danwu College, and their interests were tangled and complicated. It was conceivable that they wouldn't go against the mysterious forces of Snow Domain Pavilion just for Lu Wei. In short, the loss outweighed the gain. Given Lu Wei's talent and strength, it wasn't worth it for them to do that. Dean Dongfang, I can make my own decisions. These days, Lu Wei more or less heard that the mysterious forces that occupied Snow Domain Pavilion were very powerful. Ningyu was a core disciple of Danwu College's Sacred Institute, and his future achievements were destined to be great. She didn't want Ningyu to get involved. Chapter 539. Suspicions: if I say no, then no. If you continue to be obstinate, I will. Who? How could Dongfang Ji allow Lu Wei to do as she pleased? With Lu Wei's Xiantian cultivation, she probably wouldn't even be able to enter Snow Domain Pavilion's main entrance, let alone save her parents. However, before Dongfang Ji could finish his sentence, he heard knocking on the door. Dean Dongfang, it's me, Yin Hui. A familiar voice came from outside the door. What's the matter? Dongfang Ji was a little puzzled. He had already ordered that without his permission, no one was allowed to approach his residence. Where did Yin Hui get the guts to actually dare to disobey him? Ningyu is back. Outside the door, Yin Hui said respectfully, he wants to see Lu Wei. He's back. Dongfang Ji frowned and glanced at Lu Wei. Then he said in a clear voice, let him in. Dean Dongfang, Ningyu want me to bring Lu Wei over, Yin Hui said while gritting his teeth. What? Dongfang Ji's mouth was slightly agape. He couldn't believe what he had just heard. Ningyu had only left Danwu College for a short period of time, and he had already become so arrogant. He had to kill Ningyu's arrogance. Otherwise, he would only be cannon fodder in the 100 Academy tournament. Dean Dongfang, Ningyu was invited to the Danwu pool by the Xianming elders the moment he entered Danwu College. Yin Hui hurriedly said, not daring to be negligent. Recalling the scene back then, Yin Hui was also confused. At that time, he was just about to leave Danwu College. Who would have thought that he would bump into Ningyu at the entrance? Just when he wanted to greet Ningyu, the Xianming elders suddenly appeared. Without any explanation, they held Ningyu on both sides, saying that they wanted to bring Ningyu to the Danwu pool. Ningyu tried his best to buy some time. He instructed him to invite Lu Wei to the Danwu pool as he had something important to tell Lu Wei. As a matter of fact, Yin Hui's own matters had also fallen behind, and he hurriedly ran to Dongfang Ji's place. Danwu Pond again? Dongfang Ji's heart tightened for no reason. Then, he said without batting an eyelid, Lu Wei is here. Whether she wants to go to the Danwu pool or not, it's not up to me. Creak. Dongfang Ji opened the door and walked out. He said to Yin Hui, whether she's willing to go to the Dan Marshall pool with you or not, it's all up to you. Thank you, Dean Dongfang. Yin Hui revealed a joyful expression and hurriedly entered the room. With Lu Wei's stubborn temper, I reckon what? Dongfang Ji was almost certain that at this critical juncture, Lu Wei definitely wouldn't go and meet Ningyu. However, before Dongfang Ji's voice faded, his mouth opened slightly, revealing a look of disbelief, because he saw that Lu Wei actually left the room with Yin Hui. Furthermore, Lu Wei's expression seemed to be very anxious. Until Yin Hui and Lu Wei disappeared from his sight, Dongfang Ji still felt very confused. Didn't Lu Wei know that after meeting Ningyu, Ningyu definitely wouldn't let her return to Snow Domain Pavilion? Yin Hui, Ningyu really has a way to save my parents? On the way to the Dan Marshall pool, Lu Wei urged Yin Hui while asking, "You can't lie to me. You need to know the consequences of lying to me. When you see Ningyu later, you'll naturally understand." Actually, I don't know much either. Yin Hui felt a headache from Lu Wei's incessant questioning. To put it bluntly, he was only a messenger. Ningyu didn't tell him the specifics. Yin Hui definitely didn't believe that Ningyu had the ability to save Lu Wei's parents. His thoughts were similar to Dongfang Ji's. He thought that Ningyu called Lu Wei over to trap her and ensure that she wouldn't run around tomorrow. Dongfang Ji's residence wasn't too far from the Dan Marshall pool. Not long later, Yin Hui and Lu Wei stopped in front of stone door. "Little girl, stay." In front of the stone door, Elder Xian waved his hand at Yin Hui and said, "You can scram now." Yin Hui was a little embarrassed, but he still chose to leave tactfully. After Yin Hui left, Elder Xian stared at Lu Swan for a while and said with a frown, "You're at the Xiantian stage, and your soul power is at the 2nd grade. There's nothing special about you. Why does Ningyu value you so much?" As he spoke, Elder Xian shook his head. He grabbed Lu Wei's shoulder and dashed through the stone door. "Senior, where are we going? Where's Ningyu?" Elder Xian's speed was very fast, causing Lu Wei to be unable to speak clearly. "You'll know in a while." Elder Xian didn't slow down, but increased his speed instead. After a while, Elder Xian stopped in front of a secret room. "Old Man Ming, where's Ningyu?" Looking at the familiar figure in front of the secret room, Elder Xian asked doubtfully, "Didn't I tell you to wait for me here? Could it be that Ningyu entered the secret room?" Just now, the dean sent a message for Ningyu to go in first. Elder Ming glanced at Lu Wei and said, "But the dean personally instructed us to help Lu Wei increase her strength." "He wants us to help her increase her strength?" Elder Xian couldn't believe his ears. Who is the dean? He actually cared about a little girl at the Xiantian stage. "Right. Ningyu asked me to pass a message to you. He wants you to focus on increasing your strength. He'll explain everything to you tomorrow morning." Elder Ming seemed to have thought of something and continued, "Let's go. We'll go to the Dan pool to increase our soul power first." Elder Ming's tone was unquestionable. He directly left with Lu Wei. As for Elder Xian, although he was very doubtful, he didn't ask much. Instead, he followed closely behind Elder Ming and flew towards the Dan pool. "Ningyu, you've done well. Not only did you find the real Marshall pool, you even obtained the golden box at the bottom of the pool." In a secret room, an illusory figure floated in midair and spoke in a clear voice. Below the illusory figure, Ningyu's expression was devoid of joy or sorrow. He said indifferently, "Dean Wei, I have a question I'd like to ask you." "Oh." The illusory figure was Wei Zongtian. At this moment, he raised his eyebrows and said, "Let's hear it." Ningyu waved his sleeves, and the golden box immediately appeared in his hand. Waving the golden box in his hand, Ningyu asked doubtfully, "Can you tell me what exactly is in this golden box?" Looking at the golden box in Ningyu's hand, Wei Zongtian's eyes revealed a fervent expression. However, this fervent expression disappeared in a flash and was quickly concealed by him. "Actually, even if you didn't ask, I would have told you." Wei Zongtian took a deep breath and explained, "I once told you that Chu Tianming saved an injured heaven-devouring dog, which ultimately led to a fatal disaster. The item in the golden box is the remnant of that injured heaven-devouring dog. Chu Tianming asked me to find the remnant of the heaven-devouring dog. I'm just an illusory body and can't leave the Dan Marshall pool. That's why I asked you to find the real Marshall pool. Dean Wei, you still haven't told me what exactly is in the golden box." Ningyu waved the golden box in his hand again and said, "In my opinion, why don't we open it here?" Chapter 540. Chapter 540. Confrontation Wait. Ningyu's sudden action startled Wei Zongtian. He quickly said, "You can't break the box. If you really want to know what's inside, give it to me. I'll open it for you." "Give you the box." Ningyu put away the golden box and said hesitantly, "It's not impossible, but I have a condition." "What condition?" Wei Zongtian asked. "I'm going to marshal Qi for an hour. I'll naturally give you the golden box after an hour, Ningyu said calmly. You're going to the martial qi for an hour? Wei Zongtian frowned and fell into deep thought. A moment later, Wei Zongtian gritted his teeth and said, That's not a problem at all. The martial qi is always open for you. There's no time to lose. I'm going to the martial qi now. Ningyu did not want to waste time here and immediately urged. It had been more than 20 minutes since he left Snowfield Pavilion. If he could not find the energy equivalent to 80,000 Supreme Grade Yuan crystals, he would need 200,000 Supreme Grade Yuan crystals to control Old He. More than 200,000 Supreme Grade Yuan crystals would be enough to make Ningyu's heart ache for a long time. Let's go. Wei Zongtian was not an indecisive person. He immediately left the secret chamber with Ningyu. Since the martial qi was not in the secret chamber, Wei Zongtian could only rush to the martial qi with Ningyu. Soon, Ningyu and Wei Zongtian arrived at the secret chamber where the martial qi was. Plop! Ningyu did not hesitate and directly jumped into the martial qi. Hee. You're completely making a wedding dress for me. Looking at Ningyu gradually sinking to the bottom of the martial qi, the corner of Wei Zongtian's mouth curled up, and he said with a sinister smile, If I'm not wrong, when that little guy finishes absorbing the energy in the martial qi, he'll break out of his cocoon and become a butterfly. Ningyu did not know what Wei Zongtian was muttering. After jumping into the martial pool, Ningyu dove towards the bottom with all his might. Moreover, Ningyu communicated with Sun Jiangwen as he sank. The energy here is more abundant. Quickly absorb it and control Old Crane. Hearing Ningyu's words, Sun Jiangwen did not dare to be negligent. He quickly activated the array and began to absorb the energy from the pool. Walala! In an instant, a powerful suction force emerged from the storage ring. It began to absorb the pure energy at the bottom of the martial pool without any restraint. Not bad at all. You're faster than I expected. Wei Zongtian floated above the martial pond and nodded his head in satisfaction when he saw the changes. Although the little guy's absorption speed might be slower in the later stages, it will need at most 2 hours to completely devour the energy in this martial pool. At that time, I can use it to raise the strength of this clone to the limit. Whoosh! At the bottom of the martial pool, while Sun Jiangwen was absorbing the pure energy, Ningyu took out the golden box with a swoosh. Although the golden box had been quiet for a long time, Ningyu still had lingering fears. Back in the ice mansion, the golden box had instantly devoured all the energy in the real martial pool. Ningyu could still remember it vividly. If the golden box went crazy and devoured all the energy in the martial pool, wouldn't Ningyu have no tears to cry? Woof woof. Just as Ningyu's thoughts were running wild, he heard a faint barking of a dog. Ningyu was slightly stunned when he heard the barking of a dog. Then, a shocked expression appeared on his face. This was the second time he heard the barking of a dog. The first time was in the ice mansion. At that time, the dog was very anxious and wanted Ningyu to save it. Although the dog's barking wasn't very urgent, it was still quite urgent. What do you want? Ningyu tried to ask in a low voice. Woof woof woof. However, the barking of the dog in Ningyu's ears did not change. Ningyu was speechless. It seemed that communicating with the dog was indeed very difficult. Ningyu was in a dilemma. The Dark Emperor was resting, and he did not understand dog language. How was he going to communicate with this little dog? Woof woof. The barking of the dog continued, and it was getting more and more anxious. If you still want to devour energy, bark twice. If not, bark thrice. Ningyu rolled his eyes and thought of a countermeasure. Woof, woof. Then, 2 barks sounded in Ningyu's ears. So you still want to devour energy. Ningyu was a little speechless. Were the sky-devouring dogs all bottomless pits that devoured energy like eating? Not now. I'll let you know when it's possible. Under normal circumstances, Ningyu might let it devour the energy in the Wuqi realm. However, not now. Sun Jiangwen was absorbing energy, and Ningyu did not dare to let it go. Woof. Perhaps it understood Ningyu's words, but after the puppy in the golden box barked once, it fell silent and no longer spoke. At the same time, in the storage ring beside the stone bed, Lu Durong looked at the endless stream of pure energy entering the storage ring. His mouth was slightly open, and a look of shock appeared on his face. These people are all following Ning Yu's orders. Lu Dirong's eyes slowly swept across the Hall Master of Alchemy and the others, and he murmured, "What kind of person is Ning Yu? How can he control a yin-yang advanced stage martial artist and a 7th grade pinnacle alchemist?" Lu Dirong's shock was not surprising. He had been in the storage ring for a long time, and Elder he had not come after him. It was obvious that he had been taken away from Snow Domain Pavilion by Ning Yu. Moreover, he had seen Lung Mian sitting on the ground in the distance. "Pavilion Master Lu, Ning Yu asked me to tell you that your daughter is fine now." While Lu Durong was still in shock, Fengzi quietly came to his side and said, "When it's convenient, he will arrange for you to meet with your daughter." In fact, when Ning Yu returned to Snow Domain Pavilion from outside the capital, he had told Fengzi to comfort Lu Wei's father. No matter what, he could not let him do anything stupid. Ever since he hid from Spirit Fox number 1 and entered the storage ring, Fengzi had not left the storage ring. During this period, Lung Mian and Elder he appeared in the storage ring, all of which made Fengzi feel extremely shocked. Fengzi was almost numb from the shock, and he also reevaluated Ning Yu's strength. After the reevaluation, Fengzi found that the gap between him and Ning Yu was getting bigger and bigger, to the point where it was immeasurable. Although the gap between him and Ning Yu was getting bigger and bigger, Fengzi was not discouraged because of this. Instead, he was more excited. Perhaps as Ning Yu's strength improved, he might be able to help him. Time passed by minute, second by second, and Sun Jiangwen was also rapidly absorbing the energy in the martial pool. In the blink of an eye, 2 hours had passed. "It's done." When Ning Yu heard Sun Jiangwen's voice in his mind, a look of excitement appeared between his brows. After 2 hours of hard work, Sun Jiangwen finally lived up to his expectations and completely controlled Elder He. Although Elder He's sea of consciousness had been destroyed, the secrets of the imperial family that he knew were still very helpful to Ning Yu. After taking a deep breath, Ning Yu said to Sun Jiangwen, Chapter 541. Chapter 541. Revealing his true colors understood. Sun Jiangwen responded to Ning Yu's words and did not say anything else. He devoted himself to interrogating Elder Crane. After following Ning Yu for so long, Sun Jiangwen had basically figured out Ning Yu's temper. In short, he had to complete whatever Ning Yu asked him to do. Otherwise, the consequences would be dire. Sun Jiangwen knew very well that if he had not set up 2 formations in the storage ring, Ning Yu would have gotten rid of him a long time ago. Therefore, Sun Jiangwen did not dare to delay and tried his best to interrogate Elder Crane as soon as possible. Swoosh! After Elder Crane's matters were settled, Ning Yu shook his wrist and took out the golden box again. Woof woof! The golden box barked urgently as if it was trying to break free from Ning Yu's grasp. You can devour the energy inside now. Devour as much as you want. F***CK. Ning Yu smiled and threw the golden box in his hand. However, as soon as Ning Yu threw the golden box out, his eyes widened and his face filled with shock. Whoosh! A powerful suction force suddenly erupted from the golden box and devoured 1/10 of the energy in the pool in an instant. This speed of devouring shocked Ning Yu. However, compared to the speed at which the golden box devoured energy in Frost Manor, the speed at which it was devouring energy now was still acceptable to Ning Yu. It was not too ridiculous. Moreover, the golden box devoured the energy faster in the beginning, but as time passed, the speed became slower and slower. At this speed, it would probably take half an hour to completely devour the energy in the pool. Half an hour? Huh. Ning Yu frowned slightly and unleashed his peak 5th grade soul power, paying close attention to any sudden changes. To put it bluntly, Ning Yu was on guard against Wei Zongtian. Wei Zongtian clearly knew that the golden box contained a young heaven-devouring dog, but he did not say anything. He probably had some ulterior motives. Before the young heaven-devouring dog rushed out of the golden box, Ning Yu would not allow Wei Zongtian to do anything out of line. Therefore, Ningyu took on the responsibility of protecting them. Half an hour wasn't long, but it wasn't short either. At the very least for the golden box, it had completed its entire transformation in half an hour. Every 5 minutes, one of the keys on the golden box would be broken by the powerful energy. Ka ka ka, ka ka ka. Half an hour later, the 6 keys around the golden box were all blasted away by the powerful energy. Crack! The moment the 6 key chains were broken, the golden box exploded in front of Ningyu's horrified eyes. Xiao! Soon after, a white figure dashed out and charged towards Ningyu. Are you sure it's a heaven-devouring dog? Looking at the white figure that was charging towards him, Ningyu opened his mouth slightly, his face full of confusion. The white figure was very small, about the size of the Dark Emperor's head. Moreover, its entire body was white, without a single strand of black fur. What shocked Ningyu the most was that the white little fellow did not have any essence fluctuations. No matter how he looked at it, it did not look like a heaven-devouring dog. Its aura is similar to the Dark Emperor's. It should be a heaven-devouring dog. Oh no! Although the white little fellow did not have any essence fluctuations, the aura it emitted was more familiar to Ningyu. It was not much different from the Dark Emperor's. However, before Ningyu could finish his sentence, his expression changed drastically. He hurriedly turned into a shadow and blocked in front of the white little fellow. Buzz! Just as Ningyu blocked in front of the white little fellow, a cold light tore through the void, blasting towards his chest. Oomph! Ningyu snorted coldly and grabbed at the void with his right hand. Immediately, the red demon sword appeared in his hand. In the next moment, Ningyu slashed out with a sword radiance, which collided with the cold light in front of his chest. Pist pist. The collision of the cold light and the sword radiance did not cause much of a ripple. Both dissipated into the surroundings. Woof woof. Perhaps seeing that Ningyu was being attacked, the white little fellow barked and wanted to charge out. Wait! Ningyu whispered to the white little fellow. Then, holding the red demon sword, he charged out of the martial pool and floated in the air, facing Wei Zongtian. As for the white little fellow, it stood on Ningyu's shoulder and glared at Wei Zongtian. Dean Wei. Ningyu tried his best to calm himself down and said in a low voice, "What do you mean by doing this?" Nothing much. Wei Zongtian did not hide the burning desire in his eyes as he smiled faintly. You said that you would give me the golden box after staying in the martial pool for an hour. Now that you've been in the martial pool for 3 to 4 hours, it's time to give me the golden box, right? Old fox, you sure know how to change the subject. Ningyu despised Wei Zongtian deeply. He thought to himself that the latter was very quick to change the subject. After sorting out his thoughts, Ningyu's lips curled up, and he smiled as well. Dean Wei, I did say that I would give you the golden box, but now it's completely shattered. If you want, I can piece it back together. As he spoke, Ningyu pointed at the floating wood chips on the surface of the martial pool and said, "It's not easy to piece them back together. How about this? Give me 3 days. 3 days later, I'll come back here again and return you a complete golden box." Ningyu could clearly see the corners of Wei Zongtian's mouth twitch a few times after hearing his words. Ningyu did not mind. After all, Wei Zongtian only wanted the golden box and did not want the contents inside. I can piece the golden box back together myself. Right now, I'm interested in the little fellow on your shoulder. Wei Zongtian's expression completely darkened as he said coldly, "As a student of Danwu College, you don't even listen to me, the dean's words. It's not that I don't want to listen to you, but you haven't answered me. Why did you attack me?" Ningyu shrugged and said indifferently, "Good, very good, very good." Wei Zongtian was practically gnashing his teeth as he said, "Since you refuse to come to your senses, I'll teach you a lesson." The moment the word "you" fell, Wei Zongtian's figure gradually became illusory. Very quickly, he disappeared. Not good. Seeing Wei Zongtian disappear, Ningyu's heart trembled and he immediately retreated. Whoosh! However, the speed at which Ningyu retreated was clearly slower than the speed at which Wei Zongtian tore through space. Ningyu had only taken 3 steps back when Wei Zongtian appeared beside him. Following that, Wei Zongtian punched, aiming for Ningyu's heart. Ningyu was greatly startled. This move from Wei Zongtian was actually intending to kill him. Damn it! At the crucial moment, Ningyu cursed to himself. He quickly gathered all the essence in his sea of consciousness around his wrist, clashing with Wei Zongtian's fist. Gotcha! Chapter 542. 50% Strength. As the dean, you attacked a student in public. Aren't you afraid that the upper echelons of Danwu College will find out? Ningyu rubbed his sore right hand and said coldly to Wei Zongtian, "If I make this matter public, I believe it will affect your reputation greatly." Reputation? Haha, you're thinking too much. Wei Zongtian laughed sinisterly. I've already sealed this place. Even if I kill you here, no one will know. At this point, Wei Zongtian paused for a moment before continuing. Before you came in, I've already told the Xianming elders that I'm going to give you a great opportunity. If you can endure it, you will improve by leaps and bounds in the future. If you can't, you will vanish into thin air. In short, if you die in a martial pool, the Xianming elders will only say that you are not strong enough. You can't blame others. It seems like you've already arranged everything. Ningyu was not discouraged by Wei Zongtian's words. Instead, he smiled faintly and said, "However, there's one thing you didn't think of." "Oh, what did I not think of?" Wei Zongtian raised his eyebrows and stared at Ningyu with interest. "Come out." In the next moment, Ningyu threw the storage ring into the air and shouted, "Swish! Swish! Swish!" As Ningyu spoke, 3 figures rushed out of the storage ring and landed steadily in front of Ningyu. Hiss! Wei Zongtian could not help but gasp when he felt the powerful primal chi wave from the 3 figures in front of Ningyu. 2 peak late-stage yin-yang realm and 1 peak mid-stage yin-yang realm. Furthermore, that peak mid-stage yin-yang realm martial artist had a pair of frightening evil eyes. With such a luxurious lineup, it was no wonder that Ningyu was so confident. "Do you think you can contend against me with just them?" Although Wei Zongtian was extremely shocked, his expression did not change at all. He was still as calm as an ancient well. "In this place, I am the absolute ruler." As Wei Zongtian spoke, the essence in the secret room became berserk. In an instant, the berserk essence energy surged towards Wei Zongtian. Before Ningyu's astonished gaze, Wei Zongtian opened his mouth wide and swallowed all the surrounding essence into his stomach. Buzz! When the essence entered his stomach, Wei Zongtian's aura soared like a rocket. Intermediate yin-yang realm. Late yin-yang realm. Peak late yin-yang realm. Bang! Next, a muffled sound rang out from Wei Zongtian's body. Wei Zongtian's aura broke through from the peak late stage yin-yang realm to the peak yin-yang realm. An illusory figure actually possesses the aura of peak yin-yang realm. The powerful aura radiating from Wei Zongtian caused Ningyu's heart to sink to the bottom. Even the illusory figure had the aura of a peak yin-yang realm expert. From this, it could be seen how powerful Wei Zongtian's main body was. At the very least, his cultivation was at the half-step manifestation realm. There was even a high possibility that he had reached the creation realm. "Before I die, I'll let you know why you're dying." Wei Zongtian cracked his neck and said to Ningyu, "Actually, I noticed you the first time you came to Wuqi. To be more precise, I noticed that black sky-devouring dog. However, its bloodline is not as good as the sky-devouring dog on your shoulder. That's why I asked you to search for the real Wuqi and bring the little white guy here. A large portion of the Danwu Academy's secrets that I told you previously were fake. My real body and Chu Tianming's were trapped in the demonic dragon ruins and were unable to leave. Thus, Chu Tianming and I thought of this method. We used a secret technique to send my clone out of the demonic dragon ruins. Then, we thought a way to raise the strength of this clone to the half-step manifestation realm before returning to rescue our main body. Originally, I was worried that devouring the little white guy on your shoulder would not allow me to advance to the half-step manifestation realm. Now, it seems that I was overthinking." The corners of Chu Tianming's mouth curled up. He stared at the Alchemist Hall Master and the others and said with a smile, "With these warriors, I can even try to break through to the real manifestation realm. You're thinking too much. Unless your main body's strength reaches the mid-stage manifestation realm, it is impossible for this clone of yours to advance to the manifestation realm. Ningyu said in a deep voice, "Looks like today is destined to be a fierce battle. Ha." Wei Zongtian laughed maniacally at the sky. Then, he said sinisterly, "Fierce battle? With just you small fries?" As he laughed maniacally, Wei Zongtian's figure flashed and appeared in front of Lung Mian in the blink of an eye. Wei Zongtian threw a punch. Under Lung Mian's horrified gaze, his fist hit Lung Mian's chest. Bang! Lung Mian did not expect Wei Zongtian to be so fast. In a moment of carelessness, he was hit by Wei Zongtian's fist and was sent flying. Thuft. Lung Mian only stopped when his body hit the wall of the secret chamber. He spat out a mouthful of blood and his aura became slightly weak. It was clear that Lung Mian was severely injured. His strength had dropped by 60%. Ningyu, hand over the little white fellow on your shoulder. On account that you are a student of Danwu College, I can erase your memory and let you leave. After succeeding in his attack, Wei Zongtian did not continue attacking. Instead, he said, "How about it? Think about it. I have already been extremely benevolent to you." "Is that so?" Seeing Wei Zongtian stop, Ningyu laughed instead. His laughter was somewhat unbridled. "That attack just now should have exhausted 50% of your essence, right?" The corners of Ningyu's mouth curled up as he said, "If I did not guess wrongly, you should be doing your best to recover right now." You. Hearing Ningyu's words, Wei Zongtian's expression changed drastically. This was because Ningyu was right. That attack just now had indeed used 50% of his strength. Right now, his situation was very bad. It was impossible for him to recover to his peak state without 10 minutes. "Ningyu, I have to admit that your eyes are very sharp. If not for the situation, I would really want to take you in as my disciple." Wei Zongtian took a deep breath and calmed down instead. However, Wei Zongtian's tone changed as he said coldly, "Even if I only have 50% of my strength left, killing the 2 cultivators beside you is still a piece of cake. Aren't you afraid of biting your tongue with your big words?" Ningyu's eyes turned cold. Then he said to the Alchemist Hall Master and the others, "Take down Wei Zongtian." "Wait." Before the Alchemist Hall Master and Evil Eye made a move, Wei Zongtian extended his right hand and said sinisterly, "If you do not want Lu Wei to be killed, you can choose to attack me. You are threatening me." Ningyu's expression turned completely cold. "Actually, it is not really a threat," Wei Zongtian said indifferently. "I already told the Xianming 2 elders that if they do not see me tomorrow morning, then there is no need for Lu Wei to exist." Kaka. Chapter 543. Surprise. This thought had just appeared in Ningyu's mind when it took root. It grew stronger and stronger, and he could not get rid of it. Woof! Woof! The little white creature on Ningyu's shoulder sensed Ningyu's rage. It leaped up and hovered in the air, barking at Wei Zongtian while barking. "Huh, bark then. If you don't, you might not get another chance." Hearing the little white creature's barking, Wei Zongtian smiled sinisterly. "If time permits, I really want to raise you and devour you after you have grown a little. Unfortunately, I do not have much time left. If I do not return to the demonic dragon ruins soon, my main body will be exhausted." Wei Zongtian, no matter how calculative you are, you might have missed something. Ningyu said in a deep voice, "If Xianming Patriarch and Xianming Patriarch do not see you tomorrow morning, they will kill Lu Xuan. If I go and save Lu Xuan now, there won't be so many problems." Ha ha ha. Wei Zongtian threw his head back and guffawed again. "Do you think that you can kill this body of mine and leave the secret chamber in the remaining 2 hours? How laughably naive." Noisy. Ningyu's tone turned cold. Then, he said to Evil Eye, "Leave the secret chamber. You must rescue Lu Wei." Understood. Evil Eye did not dare to tarry. It quickly turned around and flew out of the secret chamber. Bang! However, just as Evil Eye reached the exit of the secret chamber, it seemed to touch a layer of restriction and bounced back. A barrier? Looking at the barrier that appeared at the exit of the secret chamber, Ning Yu's heart skipped a beat. Evil Eye, how long will it take for you to break the barrier? Ning Yu asked. Whoosh. 1 hour? Evil Eye's eyes gleamed coldly as it replied. Alchemist Hall Master, help me stop Wei Zongtian. Ning Yu gritted his teeth, gripped the red demon sword in his hand, and took the initiative to attack Wei Zongtian. Seeing Ning Yu make his move, the Alchemist Hall Master did not dare to slack off in the slightest. He immediately rushed out, following behind Ning Yu and fighting with Wei Zongtian. Rumble. Although Wei Zongtian's illusory body only had 50% of its strength left, its cultivation was still at the peak of the yin-yang realm. Unexpectedly, it was able to fight to a draw with Ning Yu and the others. To Ning Yu, being able to fight Wei Zongtian's illusory body to a draw was already a pleasant surprise. After all, the Evil Eye was doing its best to break the barrier. As long as the Evil Eye could save Lu Wei and return to the secret room to join forces with him, they would definitely have the upper hand. Actually, Ningyu had also considered letting the demonic eye deal with Wei Zongtian first before breaking the barrier. However, this idea was quickly rejected by Ningyu. Unrealistic, there were still 2 hours before daybreak, and the Evil Eye needed an hour to break the barrier. Ningyu did not dare to guarantee that the 3 of them could deal with Wei Zongtian within an hour. Therefore, to be on the safe side, Ningyu decided that he and the Alchemist Hall Master would hold Wei Zongtian back while the Evil Eye broke the barrier and saved Lu Wei first. Woof woof. While Ningyu fought with Wei Zongtian, the little white fellow floated left and right in the air, barking at Wei Zongtian nonstop. Oomph. I will swallow you first. Wei Zongtian snorted coldly, then forcefully pushed back Ningyu and the Alchemist Hall Master as he flew towards the little white fellow. Swish! Wei Zongtian's speed was very fast, so fast that Ningyu could not stop him. He could only shout, "Retreat quickly!" Buzz! In the next moment, Ningyu discovered that his worries were completely unnecessary. When the little white fellow saw Wei Zongtian flying towards it, it actually made a face at Wei Zongtian. Then it tore through the void and entered. A young heaven-devouring dog can tear through the void. The sudden change not only stunned Ningyu, but even Wei Zongtian was rooted to the spot. Wei Zongtian knew that a mature heaven-devouring dog could tear through the void, but he never expected that a young heaven-devouring dog could also tear through the void. A good chance. Seeing that Wei Zongtian was stunned, Ningyu was delighted. He immediately channeled the essence in his sea of consciousness into the red demon sword. In order not to miss this opportunity, Ningyu even wrapped his blue spirit fire and soul power around the red demon sword. Go! As Ningyu shouted, the red demon sword left his hand. Crack! However, the moment the red demon sword left Ningyu's hand, it tore through the void and entered. Not good. It's a king-grade flying sword. Only when the red demon sword entered the void did Wei Zongtian recover from his shock. He hurriedly retreated. Although Wei Zongtian's retreating speed was fast enough, he was still half a beat slower than the red demon sword. Pooh! In the next instant, the red demon sword appeared in the void beside Wei Zongtian, piercing Wei Zongtian's left arm. Arg! Wei Zongtian screamed like a pig being slaughtered. He raised his right hand and forcefully chopped off his left arm. Hiss! Wei Zongtian's decisiveness shocked Ningyu, but that was all. Ningyu would definitely not miss such a good opportunity. With his left arm chopped off, Wei Zongtian's strength would drop by at least 30%. In other words, Wei Zongtian's current strength was only equivalent to 20% of his peak. At his peak, Wei Zongtian's illusory body had the strength of a peak yin-yang realm expert. Now, he only had 20% of his strength left. The Alchemist Hall Master and Ning Yu joined forces and naturally defeated him easily. Ningyu, I've changed my mind. Let me go, and I promise not to devour that little white fellow anymore. Moreover, I'll let you leave this place. After being defeated, Wei Zongtian seemed to have changed into a different person. He said, "No matter what, I'm still the first dean of Danwu College. Just treat it as if nothing happened." Dean Wei, Can I ask you a question? Ning Yu first gave the Alchemist Hall Master a look, indicating for him to help demonic I break the barrier. Then, he looked at Wei Zongtian. What question? Wei Zongtian asked doubtfully. Do I look like a fool to you? Ning Yu said. No, Wei Zongtian said without even thinking. Oh, since I don't look like a fool, then I'm sorry, but there's no need for you to stay. Ning Yu nodded. Then, grasping the red demon's sword, he charged at Wei Zongtian. Ning Yu, you can't. Wei Zongtian shouted crazily when he saw Ning Yu charging at him. However, before he could finish his sentence, he stopped abruptly. His figure gradually became illusory. Ning Yu, the red demon's sword has devoured Wei Zongtian's illusory body. It's already showing signs of recovering to its peak state. Quickly find me a quiet place. I want to break through. The red demon's sword's voice rang out in Ning Yu's ear. Hearing this, Ning Yu was first stunned. Then, he revealed a look of wild joy. The red demon sword was currently a peak king rank flying sword. If it could break through, wouldn't it advance to the royal rank? Chapter 544. Help a quiet place, huh? Ning Yu rolled his eyes and said to Evil, How much longer will it take to break the barrier? Soon. I will need at most 10 minutes to break the barrier. Evil Eye replied as it worked hard to break the barrier. After Wei Zongtian's illusory body died in battle, this barrier has obviously weakened a lot. If Lung Mian and the rest help, I can break the barrier in 3 minutes. Then what are you waiting for? Ning Yu said in a deep voice, Lung Mian, Alchemist Hall Master, quickly go and help Evil Eye. Understood. The Alchemist Hall Master and Lung Mian did not dare to delay. They hurried to Evil Eye's side and worked together to break the barrier. Red Devil, how confident are you this time? Ning Yu tried his best to calm himself down and said, Also, what do you need? I will prepare it for you. The Red Devil sword's advancement to the Monarch stage was very important. Ning Yu would not allow any mistakes. Essence crystals, a huge amount of essence crystals. Give me as many as you have. Red Devil did not stand on ceremony with Ning Yu and said directly, a conservative estimate is at least 200,000 supreme essence crystals. Ning Yu was a little dumbfounded. He had gone through a lot of trouble to obtain the 80,000 supreme essence crystals that Sun Jiangwen needed. Where could he find 200,000 supreme essence crystals now? The energy in a martial pool had been devoured by the little white fellow. The martial pool was now an empty shell. Other than the clear pool water, there was not even a strand of hair left. 200,000 supreme essence crystals. Even if you want to snatch it now, it would be too late. You have 3 days. You just have to get the essence crystals within 3 days. Perhaps seeing Ning Yu's predicament, Red Devil continued. The Red Devil sword has absorbed Wei Zongtian's illusory body and has sufficient energy. The most important thing now is to find a quiet place. Fortunately, Ning Yu heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he had 3 days to find supreme essence crystals. Otherwise, he would have wasted such a good opportunity. Can I use my storage ring? Although there were still 3 days left, the quiet place made things difficult for Ning Yu. He couldn't possibly leave Red Fiend here, right? It's possible, but the Red Devil sword will cause a magic treasure tribulation when it advances to the Monarch rank. At that time, you'll have to find another place. The Red Devil pondered deeply for a moment before he said, I'm afraid my spatial ring won't be able to endure the tribulation of a Monarch rank magic treasure. Enter the ring first. As for a quiet place, I'll look for it after we leave the Dongwu pool. Ning Yu said, Whoosh. The red demon didn't stand on ceremony with Ning Yu. It immediately fused with the red demon sword and transformed into an afterimage before entering the storage ring. Crack! At this moment, the Evil Eye sent a report of victory. The barrier at the exit of the secret room was destroyed by the combined efforts of the Evil Eye and the Alchemist Hallmaster. You guys go into the storage ring as well. I'm going to find Elder Xianming. The instant the barrier was broken, Ning Yu rose from the ground and rushed out of the secret room. The Elder Xianming were only at the initial stage of the Yin Yang realm. With Ning Yu's current strength, he naturally didn't need the evil eye's help. Moreover, the elder Xian Ming guarded the Danwu pool all year round. Ningyu didn't want to kill them. He only needed to save Lu Wei and seal their mouths. The evil eye and the alchemist hall master's appearance would only make things worse. Whoosh! After leaving the secret room, Ningyu didn't stop at all. He immediately unleashed his perception and followed the elder Xian Ming's aura. Old man Xian, why do you think the old dean is so concerned about Ningyu? In the secret room, where Dan Shi was, two old men were conversing. One of them looked at the girl floating on the surface of the pool and said in confusion, not only did he allow Ningyu to enter the martial pool unconditionally, he even treated his little girlfriend so well and made an exception to let him enter the Dan Shi to cultivate. Old man Ming, why do you care so much? The old man called Old Man Xian mumbled, we just need to watch over Lu Wei. Due to our bestowments, she directly ascended to the great completion of the Khanate level. As for the power of the soul, she should be able to rise to the 3rd rank this time. It's not that I care too much. Elder Ming frowned. Have you forgotten what the old dean said to us? I'm going to give Ningyu a great fortune. If we don't see Ningyu tomorrow morning, it means that he has most likely perished in the martial pool. I'm more optimistic about Ningyu. Didn't he come out of the martial pool the last 2 times? He'll definitely make it through this time. Elder Xian said, I wonder what level Ningyu's cultivation will have risen to when he emerges from the martial pool. Elder Xian's expression changed greatly before he'd even finished speaking. He stared fixedly at the entrance of the secret room and unleashed all of his aura. Elder Ming didn't remain idle either. He shot to his feet with a swoosh and looked warily at the entrance. Seniors, I bear no ill will. Ningyu took a deep breath and slowly walked into the secret room. Ningyu had heard the conversation between the Xianming elders loud and clear. Ningyu had been worried that the Xianming elders would know something they shouldn't, but now it looked like he'd been overthinking things. What Wei Zongtian said about Lu Xuan must have been a lie. He was trying to stall for time. Since the Xianming elders didn't know about Wei Zongtian's scheme, there was no need for Ningyu to make a move against them. He only needed to take Lu Wei away and tell them that Wei Zongtian had left. Ningyu. The Xianming elders widened their eyes in surprise when they saw the familiar figure in front of them. Didn't the dean say that he'd give Ningyu a great opportunity? Why didn't Ningyu's cultivation change much? Ningyu, where's the dean? Why didn't he come out with you? Elder Xian asked doubtfully. The dean has left. Ningyu sighed softly and shook his head. Just now, the dean seemed to have received some news and suddenly tore through the void and left the martial pool. As for where he went, I don't know either. What? The dean has left. The Xianming elders flew into a rage and jumped up when they heard Ningyu's words. They just touched the threshold of the mid-stage yin-yang realm, and the dean had left? Before the dean left, he instructed us not to tell anyone about what happened here. After pondering for a moment, Ningyu said, before the dean left, he told me that the reason why the two of you haven't been able to advance to the mid-stage yin-yang realm isn't because you don't have enough energy, but because your state of mind has been restricted. In order to completely dispel the Xianming elders' doubts, Ningyu felt that he should give them some pointers. Sometimes it's not good to rely on external forces too much. Ningyu explained, you've been relying on the dean too much, which is why you haven't been able to advance to the mid-stage yin-yang realm. The Xianming elders fell into deep thought when they heard this. After a while, two powerful auras emerged from the Xianming elders' heads at the same time. Ningyu was stunned when he saw this. The Xianming elders had actually advanced from the early stage yin-yang realm to the mid-stage yin-yang realm because of what he said. Chapter 545. Gratitude. After advancing to the yin-yang realm, the Xianming elders' auras became more vigorous. Every breath they took, energy flowed through their bodies, and their mental state underwent a huge change. You've woken me up. Elder Xian took a deep breath, unable to conceal the excitement in his eyes. Yeah, if not for the dean's concern for us, we would have needed at least another year or two to reach the yin-yang realm, Elder Ming said gratefully. It's all thanks to the dean that I was able to reach the yin-yang realm this time. I've decided to stay in the Dan Wu pool for the next 2 years and won't go anywhere else. Elder Xian's tone was firm, as if Wei Zongqian was his second parent. Ningyu was speechless. He was the one who gave them advice, all right? In the end, Wei Zongqian took all the benefits. But that was fine. This way, the Xianming elders wouldn't be so suspicious anymore. Ningyu, no matter what, you've contributed this time. You can come to the Dan Wu pool to cultivate any time in the future. The Xianming elders still had some conscience. They didn't forget about Ningyu. Apart from you, all your friends and relatives can enter the Dan Wu pool to cultivate unconditionally. At this point, Elder Xian felt it was too much, so he added, of course, your friends can only enter the Dan Wu pool for an hour every month. They won't have the same treatment as you. Thank you, seniors. But Ningyu first thanked the Xianming elders, then said hesitantly, there might be some problems with the Dan Wu pool. What problems? When the dean left, he accidentally absorbed all the energy in the Dan Wu pool. Ningyu said carefully, I thought it was something serious. It's just a small matter. At first, Ningyu was worried that the Xianming elders would go berserk. Who would have thought that they wouldn't take it seriously? This was especially so for Elder Xian. He smiled and said, let me put it this way. The energy in the Martial Reservoir was only temporarily sucked dry. When you come back in 3 days, you'll realize that everything has returned to normal. The energy in the Martial Reservoir hasn't decreased at all. This was the first time Ningyu had heard of such a thing. For a moment, Ningyu's mind became active. Upgrading the Red Demon Sword to the Emperor stage required 200,000 pieces of supreme, grade, origin crystals. Why not return to the martial pool 3 days later and absorb all the energy inside? Ningyu, stay here and look after your little girlfriend. We've just advanced to the middle stage of Yin Yang realm and need to stabilize our cultivation, so we won't be accompanying you here. Just as Ningyu was letting his imagination run wild, the words of the Xianming elders echoed in his ears. Whoosh! Whoosh! Without waiting for Ningyu's reply, the Xianming elders hastily flashed out of the secret room and disappeared. After the Xianming elders left, Ningyu sorted out his thoughts and walked to the side of the pill pool. Lu Wei floated on the surface of the elixir pool. The pool water only reached her ankles. Her cultivation has reached the connate great perfection, and the strength of her soul power has reached the peak of grade 2. She's only 1 step away from advancing to grade 3. Feeling the aura emanating from Lu Wei, Ningyu nodded in satisfaction. Ningyu clearly remembered that the last time he saw Lu Wei, her cultivation was only at the early stage of connate. Only a few hours had passed, and her cultivation had risen to the peak of connate. It seemed that the Xianming elders had helped a lot. At the very least, they had given Lu Wei enlightenment. Otherwise, it would be impossible for Lu Wei's cultivation to improve so much in such a short time. Although enlightenment can improve cultivation in a short time, it's more troublesome to stabilize it. After pondering for a while, Ningyu murmured, I have to find a chance to help her stabilize her cultivation. Then, Ningyu sat cross-legged and began to circulate the spiritual art to replenish the origin qi he had consumed. In his battle with Wei Zongtian, Ningyu had expended a great deal of energy. It was impossible for Lu Wei to raise her soul power to grade 3 in a short time, so Ningyu decided to use this time to restore her cultivation to peak condition. While Ningyu was slowly recovering, Lu Wei's soul power slowly rose on the surface of the elixir pool. Bam! 2 hours passed in the blink of an eye. A muffled sound came from Lu Wei's body. Lu Wei opened her eyes, and her soul power poured out in full force. Early grade 3 soul power. Although Ningyu was doing his best to recover, he still paid attention to Lu Wei's condition. The moment Lu Wei's soul power broke through to grade 3, Ningyu shot to his feet with a whoosh, a look of pleasant surprise on his face. Ningyu were my parents. Lu Wei didn't even have time to be happy when she saw Ningyu standing in front of her. When she saw Ningyu, Lu Wei naturally wanted to ask about her parents. Don't worry. I said I could save your parents, so I will definitely save them. Ningyu smiled faintly and said to Lu Wei, Your parents are in the storage ring. Go reunite with them first, swoosh. Before Ning Yu could finish speaking, Lu Wei's figure flashed, and she rushed toward Ning Yu. Holy shit, Ning Yu didn't dare tarry. He hurriedly tossed the storage ring into the air and opened it at the same time. A beam of light rushed out from the storage ring and enveloped Lu Wei, bringing Lu Wei into the storage ring. After Lu Wei entered the storage ring, Ning Yu couldn't leave by himself and could only wait here. Yan Hui and Dongfang Ji knew that Lu Wei came to the Danwu pool. If Ning Yu left by himself, it would inevitably arouse suspicion. Ning Yu decided to wait for Lu Wei to come out before leaving the Danwu pool together. Swish! However, just when Ning Yu wanted to sit down, Lu Wei rushed out from the storage ring. Ning Yu, tell me the truth. Do you have a way to refine the revival pill? Lu Wei's face was filled with anxiety. Her first sentence was to ask about the revival pill. Ning Yu scratched his head and said, I have a way. Sun Jingwen was a peak 7th grade elixir master, and the Alchemist Hall Master was an early-stage 8th grade elixir master. With their help, in addition to his soul force being raised to the 6th grade, there was a way to refine it. Ning Yu, I beg you. Lu Wei bit her lips. She wanted to beg Ning Yu for help, but she hesitated. Through the conversation with her father, Lu Durong, she knew that her family was in decline and all their resources were in his hands. Now, only her parents were left. Why would Ning Yu help her? Moreover, even if Ning Yu was willing to help, the herbs needed to refine the revival pill were too many. At least, it would be difficult to gather them in a short period of time. Don't say anything. Your problem is my problem. Ning Yu knew what Lu Wei was thinking. He waved his hand and said, back in Dan Dragon Valley, if it wasn't for you guys, I probably wouldn't be alive now. Leave the matter of refining the revival pill to me. Just to repay a favor. Chapter 546. Blocking the way, why don't we leave this place first? Seeing Lu Wei's disappointed expression, Ning Yu felt his heart ache. Even a man might not be able to endure what happened to Lu Wei. It was hard to imagine how Lu Wei had survived this period of time. Let's go. Lu Wei took a deep breath and was about to walk out of the secret chamber. Woof woof. However, Lu Wei had only taken a few steps when a little white fellow appeared outside the secret chamber and barked twice. It was only now that Ning Yu realized that he had not seen the little white fellow for a long time. He had only cared about saving Lu Wei and did not expect the little white fellow to not be following behind him. Furball? Seeing the little white fellow floating in the air, Lu Wei was slightly taken aback and exclaimed, This is Danwu College's Danwu Pool. Why is Furball here? Woof woof. Hearing how Lu Wei addressed him, the little white fellow was furious and barked at Lu Wei twice. Ahem, Lu Wei, let me introduce you. He is not Furball, but Tun, a small dog. Ning Yu coughed twice and explained. Look at his appearance. He is clearly similar to Furball. How is he a dog? Lu Wei pointed at the little white fellow. Looking at the little white fellow floating in the air, Ning Yu felt that Lu Wei was right. He indeed looked like a furball. However, Ning Yu was a little suspicious. Back in the Danwu pool, the little white fellow did not look like Furball. Why did it have a bulging belly and look so lazy now? All right, from now on, you will be called Furball. Ning Yu directly gave the little white fellow a name, Furball. Furball looked at Ning Yu with disdain. He was clearly saying that his name was not Furball, but the great heaven-devouring dog. Furball, when you're with Lu Wei in the future, you have to protect her at all times, got it? If I see someone bullying Lu Wei and you don't help, I'll beat you up, Ning Yu said solemnly. Woof woof. Furball barked twice before leaping onto Lu Wei's shoulder, baring his teeth at Ning Yu. Ning Yu was speechless. What an ingrate. How long had it been? And he had already been captured by Lu Wei. Ning Yu, Furball is still young. I'll be responsible for protecting him. Lu Wei lovingly hugged Furball and said, You're not allowed to be so fierce to Furball in the future. Furball looked provocatively at Ning Yu, his expression as if he had won. Little thing, do you think I can't deal with you? The corner of Ning Yu's mouth rose slightly as he transmitted his voice to Furball, Don't even think about getting a single crystal from me in the future." Hearing Ning Yu's words, Furball immediately became listless and struggled to leave Lu Wei's embrace. All right, we'll leave now." Lu Wei tightly hugged Furball and fiercely glared at Ning Yu before walking out of the secret room. Ning Yu rubbed his nose and followed Lu Wei out of the secret room. At first, Ning Yu planned to let Furball enter his storage ring, but after seeing Furball, Ning Yu changed his mind. This was because Furball had actually completely concealed its aura. Even with his peak 5th grade soul force, he couldn't find anything special about Furball. After being in contact with the Dark Emperor for so long, Ning Yu is already extremely sensitive to the aura of the heaven-devouring dog. Furball could even deceive him. It seemed like no one in the vast capital would be able to discover Furball's true identity. I was wondering who it was. So it's a core disciple of Danwu College. Just as Ning Yu was pondering, he and Lu Wei had already arrived at the entrance of the Danwu pool. However, a light chuckle rang out beside his ear. Hearing this, Ning Yu raised his head and looked over. In front of him, there was a man around 20 years old with a faint smile on his face. Yi Tian. Looking at the familiar figure in front of him, Ning Yu frowned. He then pulled Lu Wei around Yi Tian and walked to the other side. Why didn't you say hello before leaving? Are you looking down on me?" Yi Tian said with a faint smile. However, before he finished speaking, he saw Ning Yu walking into the distance without looking back. Seeing this, Yi Tian's expression turned completely cold. "Stop right there. I want to challenge you." Yi Tian berated. "In the alchemy competition last time, I lost to you because I was careless. This time, I won't be careless again." Although this was the entrance to the Danwu pool, there were still many Danwu College martial artists in the surroundings. When everyone heard Yi Tian's berating, they all looked over. There were even some martial artists who started discussing. "Aren't those two Ning Yu and Yi Tian? Who's the other girl? You don't even know her?" The Snow Pavilion's young miss was sent to Dean Dongfang by Ning Yu not long ago. Who cares who that girl is? Ever since he lost to Ning Yu, Yi Tian has been in closed-door cultivation. This time, he wants to go to the Danwu pool to cultivate. Who would have thought that he would meet Ning Yu? There's a good show to watch. I guess Ning Yu won't accept the challenge, a true martial realm martial artist said. What do you mean? The martial artist at the side was puzzled. Didn't you guys notice? Yi Tian's soul force has already reached the 5th grade. Hearing this, the surrounding martial artists all focused their attention on Yi Tian. What they saw caused the surrounding cultivators to suck in a breath of cold air. Indeed, compared to the last time, Yi Tian's soul force had increased again from the peak of the 4th grade to the early stage of the 5th grade. With this soul force, coupled with Yi Tian's alchemy level, it would be very difficult for Ning Yu to win again. Ning Yu didn't care about the crowd's discussion in the distance. At this time, he stopped where he was, looked at Yi Tian with interest, and said, "You want to challenge me?" "Yes," Yi Tian said in a deep voice. "Not interested, and I don't have time." Ning Yu shrugged and said indifferently. Saying this, Ning Yu lifted his leg and was about to leave. Such a good opportunity. How could Yi Tian miss it? His figure flashed, firmly blocking Ning Yu's path, and said with a sinister smile, "You don't have time, or you don't dare to accept my challenge. Or you're afraid of losing in front of this person and losing face." Losing in front of beauty is indeed very shameful. There's nothing wrong with you doing this. Yi Tian's eyes turned, and then he changed the topic and said with a smile, "You can leave, but you have to return my square alchemy furnace and admit that you're not my opponent. No, you have to kneel down and admit your mistake." Whoosh! Yi Tian's words directly caused an uproar among the martial artists in the distance. Isn't Yi Tian too arrogant? It's fine if he wants Ning Yu to admit defeat, but he actually wants him to kneel down. He's really too much. Too much? The current Yi Tian is qualified to do so. That's right. Let me tell you something, but don't tell anyone else. Chapter 547. Ordinary Alchemy Furnace. What? Danshanzi is out? The surrounding martial artists were shocked. When Dan Shinzi was in closed-door training, it caused quite a commotion in the capital. After all, Dan Shinzi was an early-stage 8th-grade alchemist. Once he came out, it was very likely that he would advance to mid-stage 8th-grade alchemist. Didn't that mean that offending Yi Tian was equivalent to offending a mid-stage 8th-grade alchemist? That was a mid-stage 8th-grade alchemist. Not to mention that Ningyu was a core disciple of Danwu College. Even if Ningyu was the holy son of Danwu College, it would still be useless. That's right. The peak of true martial realm martial artist nodded and said, I heard that Dan Shinzi came out this time because he received an invitation from the president of the Alchemy Union to participate in the alchemy competition. Alchemy competition? Didn't they say it was postponed? Someone asked doubtfully. Hee, you're behind the times. The peak of true martial realm martial artist smiled and said, just this morning, the president of the Alchemy Union suddenly announced that the alchemy competition will officially start tomorrow. Swoosh! The surrounding martial artists widened their eyes in surprise. The news from a peak of true martial realm martial artist was too heavy. The alchemy competition had been postponed again and again, and it was confirmed that it would officially start tomorrow. It was indeed a rare thing. The alchemy competition will start tomorrow anyway. I guess Yi Tian and Ning Yu will have a clear winner today. Someone's words drew the crowd's attention back to Ning Yu and Yi Tian. With Yi Tian blocking his way, Ning Yu simply stopped. Ning Yu did not seem to care about Yi Tian's arrogance. Instead, he said indifferently, these two things may disappoint you. First, I've already sold the square alchemy furnace, so I can't return it to you. Second, you don't have the qualifications to kneel down and apologize to you. I don't have the qualifications? Yi Tian pointed at his own nose and said in a cold voice, aren't you afraid that the wind will cut your tongue? If you have the ability, let's compete again. We will compete in refining the true martial Dan. I have already prepared the herbs. With that, Yi Tian flicked his sleeve and a storage pouch appeared in his hand. There are a total of 2 sets of ingredients for refining the true martial pellet in here. We will decide the winner with 1 set of pellets. Yi Tian said gloomily as he waved the storage bag in his hand. Can I ask you a question? Ningyu said hesitantly when he saw Yi Tian's determined expression. What problem? Yi Tian asked. My time is very precious. Why should I waste my time to compete with you in refining the true martial Dan? Ningyu said in a clear voice. The surrounding martial artists were all paying attention to what was happening here. When Ningyu said this, the surrounding martial artists burst into an uproar again. Why is Ningyu so arrogant? That's right. Could it be that Ningyu thinks he can beat Yi Tian? You have to know that Yi Tian is no longer the same as before. His alchemy level has reached the initial stage of grade 5. You don't say. I'm more optimistic about Ningyu. You're optimistic about Ningyu? To tell you the truth, Yi Tian is only 1 step away from becoming a middle-stage grade 5 alchemist. That's right. This time, Yi Tian and Ningyu are competing in refining the true martial Dan. They are completely prepared. I heard that Yi Tian has received guidance from his master. Out of 10 furnaces of true martial Dan, he can refine 3 furnaces of supreme level pellets. Whoosh! This time, the way the surrounding martial artists looked at Yi Tian changed. Out of 10 furnaces of true martial Dan, he could refine 3 furnaces of supreme level pellets. Even some grade 6 alchemists might not be able to refine 1 furnace of supreme level pellets in 10 furnaces. Yi Tian was only a grade 5 alchemist, yet he could achieve this. In the future, he might even reach the height of Dan Shinzi. The martial artists whose cultivation was at the peak of the Xiantian realm started to think about how to get close to Yi Tian and strive to buy a few supreme-level pellets from him. After all, supreme-level pellets were priceless. They cannot be bought with crystals. Ningyu, are you afraid? Are you afraid of losing to me? Are you afraid of losing face in front of beauty? Are you afraid of? Yi Tian said coldly. Stop. Ningyu directly interrupted Yi Tian and said, just take it that I'm afraid, okay? If there's nothing else, I'm leaving. Don't block my way. You. The more Ningyu said like this, the angrier Yi Tian got. Ningyu was clearly looking down on him. He was not truly afraid of him. This month, I can still enter the Danwu pool to cultivate for 2 hours. Let's bet on these 2 hours. Yi Tian took out a token from his pocket. It was the token to enter the Danwu pool. Sigh. Seeing the token in Yi Tian's hand, Ningyu sighed lightly and said, "Since you are so interested, there's no harm in playing with you." Although the Xianming two elders promised Ningyu that he could enter the Danwu pool to cultivate unconditionally, and he could even bring his friends to enter the Danwu pool to cultivate, Ningyu felt that it was not good to owe others favors. If he could win this token from Yi Tian's hands, it would be better for Lu Wei to have an excuse when she entered the Danwu pool to cultivate in the future. It would not attract too much attention. Humph. Take out your cauldron. Yi Tian snorted coldly. He took out a set of ingredients for refining the true martial pill and threw it to Ningyu. Pot. Ningyu caught the ingredients and said to the surrounding students, "That, who has a cauldron to lend me?" Hearing Ningyu's words, the surrounding martial artists were all dumbfounded. After all this time, Ningyu did not even have a cauldron. No wonder he was unwilling to agree to Yi Tian's request. It was just that due to Yi Tian's master's identity, no one dared to lend their cauldron to Ningyu. I have a cauldron, but the quality is a little lower. Right at this moment, a voice resounded in the area. Ningyu looked at the cauldron in Lu Wei's hand with black lines on his forehead. The cauldron was only the size of a palm and looked very ordinary. Puffed. Seeing the cauldron in Lu Wei's hand, Yi Tian could not help but laugh out loud. After laughing, Yi Tian said, "Ningyu, if you don't have a cauldron, beg me, and I can consider giving you one. This cauldron is clearly a street stall product. It's almost 10,000 high-grade essence crystals. If you use this cauldron to compete with me in refining the true martial pill, even if I win, it will be an unfair victory. No need." Ningyu flatly rejected Yi Tian's good intentions. He took the cauldron in Lu Wei's hand and said indifferently, "I will use this cauldron to compete with you in refining the true martial pill." Ningyu, is he stupid? Yeah, using this cauldron to compete with Yi Tian in alchemy. How can he win? That's right, this cauldron can only refine 3rd-grade dawn at most. The true martial pill is a 4th-grade dawn. It's impossible to refine it. That's right. Not to mention Ningyu. Even if Dan Shenzi came, he may not be able to use this cauldron to refine the true martial pill. You guys have overlooked one thing. While everyone was discussing, a late-stage true martial realm student said, "Not only does Ningyu have to use this cauldron to refine the true martial pill, but he also has to refine a transcendent grade true martial pill to have a chance of defeating Yi Tian." Chapter 548. Chapter 548. Arrogance or confidence, ha ha ha. Yi Tian looked up to the sky and laughed. "Ningyu, you are still the same as before, arrogant, and condescending. Since you want to die, don't blame me." Yi Tian waved his sleeve, and a golden alchemy furnace appeared in his hand. Whoosh! Looking at the golden alchemy furnace in Yi Tian's hand, the surrounding students of Danwu College all opened their mouths in disbelief. A golden alchemy furnace. Ranked 28th on the Earth list. It's a golden alchemy furnace. Yi Tian came prepared. The golden alchemy furnace was used by Dan Shenzi when he was young. When did it fall into Yi Tian's hands? Didn't Dan Shenzi come out of seclusion some time ago? He must have given the alchemy furnace to Yi Tian at that time. With the alchemy furnace, Yi Tian has an 80% chance of refining a supreme, true martial pill. What does Ningyu have to compete with him? The discussion of the crowd did not affect Ningyu. It didn't matter if it was a golden alchemy furnace or a silver alchemy furnace. As long as it could refine pills, it was a good alchemy furnace. With such an amazing alchemy furnace, if he couldn't refine a supreme, true martial pill, what was the use of it? Ningyu, don't say that I am bullying you. I will let you refine the true martial pill first. Holding the alchemy furnace, Yi Tian said proudly, "I will start in 5 minutes." No wonder he is Dan Shenzi's last disciple. He is so slick. Exactly. Yi Tian let Ningyu have 5 minutes. No one will say that he is taking advantage of Ningyu. Yeah, he can divert everyone's attention to refining pills at the right time and make them ignore the difference between alchemy furnaces. Even if you give Ningyu an hour, he won't be able to refine the true martial pill, let alone 5 minutes. The moment Yi Tian took out the alchemy furnace, many students had the same opinion. It was impossible for Ningyu to refine the true martial Dan. It was impossible for him to defeat Yi Tian. Ningyu didn't care what everyone thought of him. Instead, he asked hesitantly, "Do you really want me to refine for 5 minutes first?" A gentleman keeps his word. Yi Tian raised his eyebrows and said in a clear voice, "Idiot." Ningyu glanced at Yi Tian, then immediately threw the alchemy furnace in his hands above his head. At the same time, he poured his soul force into it. Buzz. Following the infusion of Ningyu's soul force, the alchemy furnace gradually became bigger and finally became the same size as a normal alchemy furnace. Voila! After the alchemy furnace became bigger, Ningyu threw all the herbs needed to refine the true martial Dan into the alchemy furnace. A blue flame appeared on the fingertips of his right hand and began to burn the bottom of the alchemy furnace. Ningyu dares to refine real martial Dan like this? Did you lose your mind? I guess he's just giving up. He knows that it's impossible for him to defeat Yi Tian, so he's using this method to concoct pills. Even if he fails, it'll look better. That must be it. Although Ningyu used this refining method the last time he was refining pills in the Danwu Academy, seeing Ningyu's crazy actions again, the surrounding students still revealed horrified expressions. After all, Ningyu's method of concoction was too unique. In such a big capital, he was the only one. Huh, you won't be so lucky this time. Seeing Ningyu's actions, Yi Tian snorted. In Yi Tian's opinion, the reason why Ningyu was able to refine the supreme grade true martial Dan last time was completely because of luck. Compared to last time, not only did Ningyu's alchemy furnace quality was low, but he also needed to refine a supreme grade true martial Dan to defeat him. Could Ningyu refine a supreme grade true martial Dan? The answer was obviously no. By the way, Yi Tian, can I ask what counts as my victory? At this moment, Ningyu's voice rang in Yi Tian's ears. Does it count as my victory if I refine the true martial Dan before you, regardless of the quality? Hearing that, Yi Tian almost blurted out. However, before he could finish his words, he stopped abruptly. Originally, Yi Tian wanted to say of course, but when he thought of how abnormal Ningyu was, he pondered for a moment and said, "As long as you can refine a supreme grade pill before me." No, as long as you can refine a supreme grade true martial pill before me, you win. With so many people watching, Yi Tian felt that it was somewhat unfair to let Ningyu refine a supreme grade true martial Dan. Therefore, he changed his tone and said, "With my alchemy skills, I can definitely refine a supreme grade true martial Dan. I've already done my best for you. If you still can't win, it's because you're not capable enough. In that case, I really have to thank you." Ningyu said, You don't thank me. You just need to return the square alchemy furnace to me and kneel down to apologize to me." Yi Tian laughed. "It may be too early to say these words. It's not the last moment yet. I can't guarantee that I can refine a supreme grade true martial Dan before you." Ningyu shrugged. Originally, Ningyu wanted to refine a supreme grade true martial Dan. Fortunately, he asked Yi Tian, so he could avoid the embarrassment of refining a supreme grade true martial Dan. Using such a low-quality alchemy furnace to refine a supreme grade true martial Dan, it was estimated that the top management of Danwu College would be shocked. Ningyu didn't want to be in the limelight. Since refining a supreme grade true martial Dan before him would be considered as his victory, Ningyu temporarily changed his alchemy strategy. He lowered the heat and refined the true martial Dan unhurriedly. Ningyu's actions made the corners of the mouths of the surrounding martial artists twitch. The alchemy furnace's quality was already low, and he still didn't refine the Dan seriously. It would be strange if he could win. Arrogant, conceited, and condescending, I will make you cry later. Yi Tian was very displeased with Ning Yu's behavior. He gave him 5 minutes, but he didn't know how to cherish it. Instead, he wasted it. This could no longer be regarded as arrogance. It was clearly looking down on him. Although refining a supreme grade true martial Dan is relatively slow, refining a supreme grade true martial Dan is relatively fast. Yi Tian was secretly calculating the time. After 5 minutes, I will start refining the highest grade true martial Dan. As long as I can refine the highest grade true martial Dan one step ahead of him, I can also kill his arrogance. At first, Yi Tian wanted to refine a supreme grade true martial Dan, but considering that refining a supreme grade true martial Dan might take a long time, he temporarily decided to refine a supreme grade true martial Dan. Impact, face slapping, shock. These were the effects that Yi Tian wanted. Although refining a supreme grade true martial Dan would shock everyone more, it would take a long time. Yi Tian didn't want to wait any longer. He already couldn't wait to see Ning Yu's appearance when he was defeated. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Time flew by quickly. 1 minute, 3 minutes. 5 minutes. In the blink of an eye, 5 minutes had passed. Swish! Just after 5 minutes, Yi Tian threw the golden cauldron alchemy furnace above his head, grabbed a medicinal herb with his right hand, and was about to put it into the alchemy furnace. Chapter 549. Harry Ball. Crack. A clear and melodious sound resounded in this area. Ning Yu slammed his palm heavily on the cauldron. The low-quality cauldron did not even last a second in Ning Yu's hand before it shattered. Whoosh! The shattering of the cauldron silenced the surrounding martial artists. Ha ha! After a short period of silence, bursts of laughter erupted from all around. Ning Yu is too good. He failed to refine the true martial pill and even shattered the cauldron. You can't blame Ning Yu. After all, that cauldron was too weak. How could it have withstood his scorching heat? This is going to be fun. Ning Yu failed to refine the true martial pill. I wonder if he will kneel down and apologize to Yi Tian. In front of so many people, Ning Yu won't go back on his words, will he? Hard to say. After all, kneeling down to Yi Tian in front of so many people is a disgrace to him. Ning Yu's face did not change in the slightest when he heard the discussions of the surrounding martial artists. It was as if the matter had nothing to do with him. On the contrary, Ning Yu moved his feet and walked forward. Stop! Yi Tian reprimanded him. Ning Yu, you have to accept your defeat. You lost. Hurry up and hand over the square alchemy furnace, then kneel down and admit your mistake. I will consider this matter over and will not mention it again in the future. Ning Yu stopped in his tracks and said, I seem to have heard you say that as long as I can refine a supreme grade true martial Dan before you, this battle will be considered my victory. I did say that. Yi Tian raised his eyebrows and said in disdain, but your cauldron is broken and you have no more ingredients. What are you going to use to refine the true martial pill? How are you going to compete with me? The cauldron is broken and the ingredients are gone, but that doesn't mean I can't refine the true martial pill. Ning Yu smiled and ignored Yi Tian. He turned around and walked away. Stop right there. Today, no matter what. What? Seeing that Ning Yu was ignoring him, Yi Tian's face instantly darkened. However, just as he was about to scold Ning Yu, his eyes widened and his face was filled with confusion. Ning Yu stopped in front of the largest pill furnace fragment and kicked it away. Voila! Just as Ning Yu kicked the fragments of the pill furnace away, the martial warriors in the area revealed extremely shocked expressions. Many martial artists stood rooted to the ground, speechless for a long time. True martial Dan. Supreme grade, true martial Dan. What was hidden under the fragments of the alchemical furnace was a top-grade, true martial Dan. Who would have thought that Ning Yu would actually refine the best-grade true martial Dan? To them, this was a deep irony. Picking up the true martial pill on the ground, Ning Yu returned to Yi Tian and said indifferently, If you're willing to bet, you must be willing to lose. Hand over the token to enter the Danwu pool. Crack, crack. Looking at the pill in Ning Yu's hand, Yi Tian clenched his fists so hard that they made cracking sounds. His eyes revealed a hint of viciousness. However, this viciousness was quickly concealed by him. Other than Ningyu, no one else noticed it. "Hand over the pill, and let me check," Etion said coldly. "As long as I can confirm that the pill in your hand is a top-grade true martial Dan, I will naturally hand over the token. If I find out that the pill in your hand is not a top-grade true martial Dan, not only will you kneel down, you will also have to kowtow to me a few times." "I don't trust you," Ningyu said bluntly, not afraid of offending Etion. "You don't trust me?" Etion couldn't believe his ears at all. He said gloomily, "I'm an early-stage 5th-grade alchemist. Don't tell me I can't even differentiate a top-grade true martial Dan." "That's hard to say." Ningyu shrugged and said, "Humans make mistakes, dogs stumble. You might be the one who stumbles." When Ningyu's words fell into Lu Wei's ears, she couldn't help but laugh out loud. However, when she saw Yi Tian's livid face, Lu Wei quickly stopped laughing. Woof woof. Lu Wei stopped laughing, but Harry Ball, who was in her arms, laughed happily and didn't have any intention of stopping. Yi Tian was very angry. He was on the verge of exploding. Being laughed at by Lu Wei was fine, but now he was being laughed at by a dog? Not only his aunt couldn't tolerate it, no one could. "If you laugh again, I will skin you alive," Yi Tian said fiercely. Shio. Hearing that, Harry Ball was angry. What kind of cat or dog dared to say such harsh words to him? And Quan didn't put him in his eyes. Harry Ball's anger was much more powerful than Yi Tian's. He instantly broke free from Lu Wei's embrace and appeared in front of Yi Tian in the blink of an eye. Rip! Its front paw stretched out, and when Yi Tian was caught off guard, it ruthlessly tore off a large piece of Yi Tian's clothes. Then, Harry Ball waved the spoils of war in its paw and looked at Yi Tian provocatively. I'm so angry, I'm so angry." Yi Tian was already on the verge of exploding. Now that Harry Ball had messed with him, he completely went berserk. After going berserk, Yi Tian unleashed his soul force at the beginning of 5th-grade soul force and pressed it down on Furball. "Ningyu, hurry up and save Harry Ball." Lu Wei's soul force had increased to rank 3 soul force, so she was very sensitive to Yi Tian's soul force pressure. "Don't panic. Harry Ball should be able to handle it." Ningyu didn't act immediately. In other words, Ningyu didn't think that Harry Ball would be injured. Harry Ball's current appearance was clearly disdainful of Yi Tian. Ningyu also wanted to see how abnormal Harry Ball, whose bloodline was said to be even thicker than Dark Emperor's, was. Woof woof. Being enveloped by Yi Tian's soul force, Harry Ball seemed to be enjoying it. It even made a face at Yi Tian. "What is that little white guy? Are you deaf? Didn't you hear it barking?" "That's right, it should be a dog. As for what rank it is, I don't know. It's definitely not a low rank. Yi Tian's soul force is at rank 5 soul force. A small dog that can remain unscathed under his soul force can't be a low-rank monster beast." Now, many students were very interested in Harry Ball. After all, a small dog that could face Yi Tian head-on was indeed very rare. This dog isn't simple. In the instant that soul force pressure pressed down on Harry Ball, Yi Tian felt that Harry Ball was extraordinary. Generally speaking, even a rank 5 martial artist with the same soul force as him might not be able to withstand his soul force pressure. For Harry Ball to be able to withstand his soul force pressure, it was at least a rank 5 monster beast. A rank 5 monster beast was equivalent to a human Yuan Dan realm martial artist. Because he cultivated his soul force all year round, Yi Tian's cultivation was only at the late stage of the true martial realm. If he really fought with Harry Ball here, the one who would lose in the end would definitely be Yi Tian. "Ningyu, it's fine if you don't dare to let me inspect the elixir, but you actually let a dog come and cause trouble?" Yi Tian's eyes turned as he quickly thought of a countermeasure. Chapter 550. The pill exploded what? What Ningyu refined was not a supreme-grade true martial pill, but a low-grade true martial pill. Humph. I have said that it would be strange if Ningyu could refine a supreme-grade true martial pill with such a low-quality furnace. I suspect that the true martial pill he refined was not even a low-grade one. Not even a low-grade one? That is impossible. Ningyu refined a supreme-grade, true martial pill last time. There is no reason that he could not even refine a low-grade, true martial pill this time. Let's wait and see. Yes, now let's see if Ningyu dares to let Yi Tian check the pill. Hearing Yi Tian's words, the surrounding martial artists began to discuss again. However, this time, the focus of everyone's discussion had shifted from Harry Ball to the true martial pill. Ningyu, are you guilty? The reaction of the surrounding martial artists gave Yi Tian a feeling that his plan had succeeded. He said coldly, "Now I suspect that what you refined was not a low-grade true martial pill, but a fake of fake." Wow. Yi Tian's words caused the originally quiet area to become noisy once again. Fake? Could it be that Ningyu did not even refine a low-grade true martial pill? It is hard to say. Ningyu used a low-quality furnace. It is reasonable that he could not refine a low-grade true martial pill. Maybe Ningyu had prepared the pill a long time ago and took it out at the last moment to get away with it. Yes, you must check the pill. Yes, we must check the pill. In an instant, the surrounding martial artists sided with Yi Tian and shouted that they wanted to check the pill. Yi Tian looked at Ningyu provocatively. He raised the corner of his mouth and said to himself, "As long as you let me check, even if you refined a supreme-grade true martial pill, I have a way to change it to a low-grade one. This time, I am doomed to ruin your reputation." Ningyu frowned slightly and said indifferently, "It's not impossible to check the dawn, but you're just a 5th-grade primary alchemist, so you shouldn't be able to distinguish the difference between a top-grade true martial Dan and a low-grade true martial Dan." "I can't tell." Yi Tian pointed at his own nose and laughed wildly. "What a joke. I can refine the best quality true martial Dan as easy as taking something out of my pocket. You actually said that I can't tell the difference between them. Hee hee, the ignorant are truly fearless." "Oh, if that's the case, I won't make things difficult for you," Ningyu said unhurriedly. "As long as you can refine a top-grade true martial Dan, you win." Voila! Ningyu's words made the surrounding martial artists a little dumbfounded. Arrogant. Arrogant. One had to know that Yi Tian was an early 5th-grade alchemist, coupled with the Golden Cauldron Furnace, not to mention the supreme-grade true martial Dan. Even the transcendent-grade true martial Dan could be refined. Has Ningyu gone mad? Now I'm wondering how he became a core disciple of the Sacred Institute. That's right. Yi Tian can easily refine the supreme-grade true martial Dan. It doesn't make sense for Ningyu to do so. Doesn't make sense? Haha. In my opinion, Ningyu has already given up. What he's doing is nothing but delaying for time. If I'm not wrong, Ningyu should be informing Ding Dongfang, hoping that Ding Dongfang can come and help him out. What the crowd didn't know was that while they were discussing, Dongfang Ji, who was behind a house not far away, was frowning deeply. In fact, when Ningyu and Yi Tian began to compete in alchemy, Dongfang Ji had already come over. However, he wanted to see Ningyu's alchemy level, so he didn't intervene. When Ningyu refined the best quality true martial Dan, Dongfang Ji was very pleased and almost wanted to come forward to testify for Ningyu. However, when he heard the crowd's words, he stopped and chose to wait and see. Now that he came forward at this time, the crowd would definitely think that he was partial to Ningyu. What the hell is this kid doing? Does he really think that Yi Tian can't refine the best quality true martial Dan? Dongfang Ji was a little worried. Based on his understanding of Yi Tian, he knew that Yi Tian could easily refine the best quality true martial Dan. "You're courting death." Yi Tian showed a touch of ruthlessness and said coldly, "Open your eyes and watch. Not only will I refine the true martial Dan, but the lowest quality will also be supreme." The moment his voice fell, Yi Tian flicked his wrist and threw the golden tripod alchemy furnace into the air. Then he grabbed a medicinal material with his left hand and threw it into the alchemy furnace. At the same time, a light purple flame appeared on the fingertips of his right hand. Purple Serene Fire. Purple Serene Fire is the 382nd flame on the exotic fire list. With the purple serene fire and the strength of Yi Tian's early 5th grade soul force, I estimate that he can refine the best quality, true martial Dan in 10 minutes. 10 minutes? You're behind the times. In my opinion, Yi Tian will be able to refine a highest grade true martial Dan within 5 minutes. Furthermore, it is extremely likely that he will break the limit of refining a highest grade true martial Dan within the Sky Devil region's younger generation and refine a highest grade true martial Dan within 3 minutes. It's impossible in 3 minutes, but in 5 minutes, Yi Tian should be able to refine the best quality true martial Dan. You're all wrong. Yi Tian doesn't want to refine the best quality true martial Dan. He wants to refine the supreme, true martial Dan. Swish! The last warrior's words turned everyone's attention to Yi Tian. At this time, Yi Tian kept throwing medicinal materials into the alchemy furnace with his left hand, and the temperature of the flame in his right hand kept increasing. Moreover, Yi Tian's early 5th grade soul force was constantly injected into the golden tripod alchemy furnace, refining the medicinal materials. Ningyu, Yi Tian can't really refine the supreme, true martial Dan, can he? Seeing Yi Tian's appearance, Lu Wei was a little worried and said. Ningyu smiled and said, "Don't worry, the supreme, true martial Dan is not that easy to refine. That being said, I'm still a little worried." Lu Wei said while clenching her teeth. "Don't worry, if Yi Tian continues to refine like this, the dam will explode in less than a minute." Ningyu waved his hand, signaling Lu Wei not to worry. "Dead duck, you dare to say that the dam will explode in less than a minute?" Yi Tian heard Ningyu's words completely. Yi Tian snorted and said gloomily, "If I really explode in less than a minute, I will personally kneel down and apologize to you." "Hee, Yi Tian, you have to remember what you said. Don't go back on your words," Ningyu said with a faint smile. "Of course I will remember what I said," Yi Tian said proudly, not putting Ningyu in his heart at all. "Speaking of which, you can't be thinking of what?" Bang! However, as soon as Yi Tian finished speaking, his eyes widened and his facial expression became extremely interesting. This muffled sound made the surrounding warriors' eyes fall on the golden tripod alchemy furnace. Bang, bang, bang. After the muffled sound, another 3 muffled sounds were heard. Swish! Hearing these muffled sounds, the warriors in the area instantly quieted down. It was so quiet that even breathing could be heard clearly. Gulp! Chapter 551. A Villain Pill Explosion. With Yi Tian's alchemy level, coupled with the assistance of the golden cauldron and the purple serene fire, the pill still exploded. That's right, even horses stumble. Even Yi Tian's true martial Dan had an explosion. In the future, when we refine Dawn, we must be extremely careful. What do you guys think? Suddenly, a true martial realm early-stage martial artist hesitated and said, "Will Yi Tian kneel down and apologize to Ningyu?" The words of the true martial realm early-stage martial artist made the originally noisy area quiet down again. This time, the silence was abnormally terrifying, similar to the kind of deathly silence. Many students shifted their gazes towards Yi Tian. All of them wanted to see if Yi Tian would really kneel down and admit his mistake as he had promised Ningyu. Yi Tian stood in the same place, looking at the medicinal liquid bursting out of the golden cauldron, his face gloomy. Pill explosion. Since he started learning alchemy, this was the first time a pill exploded. In the past, when his soul force was low and the cauldron quality was very poor, the pill did not explode, but this time, it actually exploded. Yi Tian, if you agree to bet, you must accept your loss. I did not force you. Ningyu crossed his arms in front of his chest and said indifferently, "A gentleman's word is as fast as a whip. If you admit that you are a villain, you don't have to kneel down and apologize to me." At this time, Yi Tian's heart was filled with mixed feelings, as if he had eaten shit. What was originally in the bag turned out to be such a change, which was completely unexpected for Yi Tian. It seems that Yi Tian wants to act shamelessly. It should be. Yi Tian will never kneel down and apologize to Ningyu. If Yi Tian really kneels down, he will not only lose his face, but also his master Danshinzi's. Danshinzi is an 8th grade alchemist. If he knew that his last disciple was defeated in alchemy and knelt down, he will definitely be furious. There's nothing he can do even if he's furious. Looking at Ningyu's attitude, Yi Tian has 2 choices today. First, he can admit that he's a vile person and doesn't have to kneel down to apologize. Second, he must kneel down to apologize. Yi Tian was already furious. Hearing the undisguised discussions of the students around him, he became even more furious. His chest heaved up and down uncontrollably, on the verge of exploding. Although he really wanted to refute, the truth was right in front of him, and he was powerless to argue. The current situation was very disadvantageous to him. Once Ningyu got serious, he would have no way to deal with it. What's your decision? Do you want to kneel down and apologize to me? Or do you want to admit that you're a vile person? Since he had won, Ningyu did not want to waste time with Yi Tian. After all, he still had important things to do. Advancing the Red Demon Sword to the Monarch rank required 200,000 transcendent-grade origin crystals in a quiet place to advance. Ningyu had to find all of these things. He even had to find a place for Lu Wei to stay. After all, their family couldn't stay in the storage ring forever. It was impossible for the Alchemist Hall Master, Lung Mian, and the others to stay in the storage ring for a long time. If they could find a place to stay, they could save a lot of trouble. Most importantly, Li Tongtian had already been treated by Sun Jiangwen. Now that he was more or less recovered, it was time for him to leave the storage ring. However, Ningyu did not want to let Yi Tian go so easily. He continued, "Before you make your decision, hand over the token to enter the Danwu pool. Ningyu, I'll hand the token to you, and we'll write off today's matter. How about it?" Yi Tian took the token in his hand and said, "Also, I can introduce you to my master and let you become his disciple." Whoosh! Yi Tian's words immediately caused a stir among the surrounding students. Introduce Ningyu to Danshinzi? Become Danshinzi's disciple? One had to know that Danshinzi had already announced a long time ago that he would no longer accept disciples. With Yi Tian's talent in alchemy, perhaps Danshinzi would make an exception. If I were Ningyu, I would definitely agree to Yi Tian's request. Only a fool wouldn't agree. In the capital, there are at least 10,000 people who want to become Danshinzi's disciple. That's right. Even some 6th grade alchemists who have been famous for a long time want to become Danshinzi's disciple. The surrounding students were shocked to the extreme by the news that Yi Tian had thrown out. There were even some students who revealed looks of jealousy. The reaction of these students was clearly within Yi Tian's expectations, and he was very satisfied. However, when he looked at Ningyu, he was dumbfounded. This was because Ningyu did not listen to his words at all. "Don't waste your breath. Hurry up and hand over the token." As soon as Ningyu said this, he dashed out quickly and disappeared from Yi Tian's side in a flash. "My token." Yi Tian looked down at his empty palm and could not help but shout, "Ningyu, take my token." "Hey, Yi Tian, you're wrong." Ningyu interrupted Yi Tian and said calmly, "It's not your token, it's mine. It seems like you don't want to kneel down and admit your mistake. If that's the case, I won't accompany you anymore. I'm Yi Tian." As he spoke, Ningyu pulled Lu Wei's hand and walked away. It was not until Ningyu and Lu Wei were far away that Yi Tian came to his senses. "Ah, Ningyu, I'm not done with you." Yi Tian shouted like a madman. "Tomorrow, I will challenge you again in the alchemy competition. I hope you won't be a coward then." Ningyu, who was in the distance, stopped in his tracks. "The alchemy competition is going to be held tomorrow." Frowning, Ningyu mumbled, "It seems like I have one more thing to do." Ningyu had to participate in the alchemy competition organized by the Alchemy Union no matter what. After all, Ningyu had promised President Zhou of Tianjin City's Alchemy Union that he would represent the Alchemy Union to participate in the alchemy competition. After delaying the alchemy competition for so long, it was finally going to be held. Ningyu had one more thing to do, which was to find President Zhou and participate in the alchemy competition. What a headache, thinking about this. Ningyu could not help but quicken his steps. Soon, he disappeared from everyone's sight. I'm afraid that tomorrow's alchemy competition will be another fierce battle. It's hard to say. I heard that the Alchemy Union has the intention to open up the alchemy competition and make it a grand event for the Great Xia Kingdom. At that time, not only will the peerless genius of the Alchemy Union, Ren Xiangtian, participate in the alchemy competition, but some hidden 6th and even 7th grade alchemists will also send their last disciple to participate. Not only the last disciple of the alchemists, I heard that Danwu College will also send a group of disciples to participate. It seems that the alchemy competition this time will select 3 alchemy geniuses to represent Danwu College in the 100 Academy battle. Yes, let's go and register too. Who knows, we might stand out. The registration period is this afternoon. We can't miss it. Let's go and guard there now. Yi Tian did not care about the discussions of the students around him. His face was cold as he said fiercely, Chapter 552. Divine Physician, Shop Ningyu and Lu Wei didn't stop at all. After leaving the Danwu pool, they hurried towards Dongfang Ji's residence. These few days, Lu Wei had been staying at Dongfang Ji's place. Ningyu had to thank her no matter what. If it wasn't for Dongfang Ji, Lu Wei might have already been captured by the Imperial clan. Just based on this, Ningyu had to go over personally to thank Dongfang Ji. When did Ningyu return? Not sure. They seem to have come from the Danwu pool. Danwu pool? Could it be that Ningyu returned a long time ago and has been cultivating in the Danwu pool, but that Lu Wei beside him isn't a cultivator from Danwu College? Don't tell me she just came out of the Danwu pool too. That's nothing. Lu Wei has been staying at Dongfang Ji's place for the past few days. In my opinion, it's very likely that Dongfang Ji has taken her in as his final disciple. It's understandable that she's cultivating in the Danwu pool for a period of time. Didn't Shuiyu Pavilion's mysterious faction announce it? They told Lu Wei to hurry to Shuiyu Pavilion before tonight. Otherwise, they'll get rid of her parents. I wonder if she'll go. Lu Wei can't be that stupid. Furthermore, with Ningyu's help, Dean Dongfang will probably come personally. Because Ningyu obtained first place in Danwu College's Sacred Institution examination, the cultivators of Danwu College were more familiar with him. Along the way, people kept pointing at them and gossiping. Comparatively speaking, people were more concerned about Lu Wei. Ningyu didn't take the students' discussions to heart. Instead, he quickened his pace. Dongfang Ji's residence wasn't too far from the Danwu pool. In a short while, Ningyu arrived at the entrance of the courtyard. Why are you here? As soon as he stopped in front of the courtyard, Ningyu saw a familiar figure. It wasn't Dongfang Ji, but Yin Hui. At this moment, Yin Hui's face was filled with disappointment. When he saw Ningyu, his expression turned for the better. Ningyu, there's something I need Dean Dongfang's help with, but he's not here. Yin Hui hesitated for a moment, but he still said, I heard he went to a meeting and won't be back for a while. Not here. Ningyu was taken aback. Then he seemed to have thought of something and said, Yin Hui, what matter do you need Dean Dongfang's help with? Why don't you tell me? About my master. Yin Hui gritted his teeth and said, his old man's illness can't be delayed any longer. Towards the end, Yin Hui's voice became softer and softer, even choking a little. Ningyu's expression changed a little. To be able to make a grown man like Yin Hui cry, it seemed like he was really forced into a corner. In other words, his master's illness could not be delayed any longer. Let's go. I'll go with you. Yin Hui's master, Ningyu, was still remembered. With a rank 6 soul power, he was paralyzed in bed all year round. At that time, Ningyu discovered that Yin Hui's master was severely injured and his body was heavily injured. However, at that time, Ningyu's soul power was only at the rank 4 level. Even if he discovered Yin Hui's master's condition, it would be difficult to treat him. Moreover, Ningyu and Yin Hui were not that close at that time. In addition, he was busy, so naturally, he would not waste time and energy to think of a way to treat Yin Hui's master. Now that things have come to this is the only way. Hearing Ning Yu's words, Yin Hui's eyes lit up, but he quickly fell silent. In Yin Hui's opinion, although Ning Yu was a core disciple of Danwu College's Sacred Institute, it was very likely that he would be helpless when it came to his master's illness. There's no time to lose. Let's hurry up and go. Seeing Yin Hui's expression, Ning Yu did not expose him. He directly pulled Lu Wei and walked out of Danwu College. What Yin Hui did not know was that in Ning Yu's storage ring, there was a peak rank, 7 Elixir Master, Sun Jiangwen, and an early stage rank, 8 Elixir Master, Alchemy Master. Both of their methods and abilities were much stronger than Dongfang Ji's. I heard that this afternoon is the registration phase for the alchemy competition. On the way, Ning Yu and Yin Hui began to chat. That's right. This afternoon is the registration phase. Yin Hui nodded. There might be a lot of people participating in the alchemy competition this time, so the Alchemy Union has decided to register in advance so that the competition can officially start tomorrow. Does everyone have to register? Ning Yu asked. That's right, Yin Hui explained. I heard that there are 2 forms of registration. The first is for the Alchemy Union to register as a group. The second is for individuals to register individually. What's the difference? Ning Yu asked again. There's no difference. It's just that they register in the name of the Alchemy Union. Their final results will be recorded in their respective Alchemy Union. Their ranking will directly determine the allocation of resources for the Alchemy Union in each city next year. Yin Hui said, Fortunately, the registration is in the afternoon. I'll go take a look at Master Yin Hui's condition first before heading to the Alchemy Union to look for President Zhou Tong, Ning Yu mumbled. Actually, Ning Yu was a little worried. The agreed time with Zhou Tong had already passed. Zhou Tong might have already returned to Tianxin City. After all, if he couldn't find Ning Yu, Zhou Tong wouldn't be able to send out any students to participate in the alchemy competition. If he continued to stay in the capital, it would only increase his consumption. We're here. At this moment, Yin Hui stopped in front of a shop. Miracle Physician Shop. Senior brother Yin, you're finally back. Just as Ning Yu and the rest entered the shop, a chubby boy ran over with an anxious expression. Hurry up and take a look. Master is already unconscious. What? Hearing the chubby boy's words, Yin Hui was shocked. As he walked in the room, he asked, When did Master faint? Wasn't he still fine when I left? 10 minutes after you left, Master fainted, the chubby boy said hurriedly. Before he fainted, Master kept talking about you and asked me to call you back. How could I leave Master here alone? Fortunately, you came back in time. Otherwise, I really wouldn't know what to do. As he spoke, the chubby boy was on the verge of crying. Early stage Xiantian. Early stage 2nd grade soul force. Ever since he entered the shop, Ning Yu noticed that the chubby boy was different. When he first came to the Miracle Physician Shop, the chubby boy was only at the Hotian stage and had a peak 1st grade soul force. How long had it been? His cultivation had risen to early stage Xiantian, and his soul force had reached early stage 2nd grade. Such a speed of advancement was even faster than when he was in the past. Creak. At this moment, Yin Hui opened the door and entered the room where his master was. Huh? As soon as he stepped into the room, Ning Yu noticed something unusual. Early stage 7th grade. Ning Yu was unusually shocked. Previously, Yin Hui's master soul force was only early stage 6th grade. How did it reach early stage 7th grade now? Chapter 553. Chapter 553. Death Give Full Treatment Wait. While Ning Yu was still in shock, Yin Hui had already arrived at the bedside and released his soul force in an attempt to probe his master's injuries. Upon seeing this, Ning Yu hurriedly said, Your master's soul strength is very weak now. It must not be disturbed. Not even the slightest bit of interference. In the end, Ning Yu added, Once his soul force is disturbed, it will be harder than ascending to the heavens to cure him. Hearing this, Yin Hui immediately withdrew his soul force back into his body. His face revealed waves of lingering fear. Fortunately, Ning Yu came with him. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Ning Yu, Do you have a way to cure my master? After coming back to his senses, Yin Hui recalled what Ningyu had just said and hurriedly said, "As long as you can cure my master." Yin Hui's voice became softer and softer as he spoke. Even if Ning Yu could cure his master, he would not be able to repay him. Medicinal herbs, magical treasures, medicinal pills, and crystals. Ning Yu should not be lacking in these things. In the end, he really had no way to repay Ning Yu. What are you talking about? If you trust me, then leave the room with your junior brother. Ning Yu said solemnly, "I will do everything possible to save your master. I trust you, of course I trust you." For now, Yin Hui could only place his hopes on Ning Yu. You have to believe it, even if you don't believe it. After responding, Yin Hui walked out of the room with the fat boy. Wait a moment. Before Yin Hui left the room, Ning Yu said, "Lu Wei, you go out with Yin Hui." Lu Wei knew that she wouldn't be able to help Ning Yu in the process of saving people. So when she heard Ning Yu's words, she didn't hesitate and immediately left the room with Yin Hui. Woof woof. However, Furball roared at Ning Yu twice before lying down in Lu Wei's arms, no longer saying a word. Lu Wei, leave Furball behind. Seeing Furball's reaction, Ning Yu slightly frowned and then said, "In addition, without my permission, no one can enter this room." All right. Since Ning Yu had requested it, Lu Wei could only unwillingly place Furball on the ground. Creak. After that, Lu Wei and Yin Hui left the room together. Furball glanced at Ning Yu before finding a comfortable place to lie down. Go and squat in front of the door. Without my permission, no one is allowed to enter the room. Ning Yu arrived at Furball's side and raised his leg to kick him. Xiao. Furball's reaction was beyond Ning Yu's imagination. When Ning Yu raised his leg, Furball exerted strength in all four limbs and directly jumped in front of the door. It first glanced at Ning Yu with disdain, then Furball lay on the ground with its eyes closed. Seeing Furball's lazy appearance, Ning Yu was a little angry. However, Ning Yu thought about it and felt that there was no need to be angry with Furball. He directly went to the bedside and began to examine Yin Hui's master's injuries. Because he could not use his soul force to examine, Ning Yu could only use his perception and carefully enter Yin Hui's master's body. As soon as his perception entered Yin Hui's master's body, Ning Yu could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. This was because the condition of Yin Hui's master's body was abnormally terrible to the extreme. His 5 viscera and 6 bowels were all wrapped up in a ball of black liquid. Moreover, this black liquid was constantly seeping into Yin Hui's master's 5 viscera and 6 bowels. Although the speed was relatively slow, after years of accumulation, a large portion had already entered his 5 viscera and 6 bowels. F***CK. When Ning Yu's perception shifted to Yin Hui's master's legs, Ning Yu directly cursed, and his face instantly darkened. Yin Hui's master's knees were almost comminuted. The most serious thing was that under Yin Hui's master's knees, there was a large amount of black liquid accumulated. The black liquid here was much stronger than the one in the 5 viscera and 6 bowels, and its corrosiveness was unusually strong. The condition of Yin Hui's master's body caused Ning Yu's expression to become very solemn. Taking a deep breath, Ning Yu shifted his perception to Yin Hui's master's sea of consciousness. Peak rank 7 soul force. As soon as Ning Yu's perception entered Yin Hui's master's sea of consciousness, his mouth opened wide, revealing a look of disbelief. Although the matter of the black liquid shocked Ning Yu, compared to the current shock, it was completely insignificant. The strength of his soul force is only at the early stage of rank 7. Why is there residual strength of a peak rank 7 soul force in his sea of consciousness? Ning Yu's brows furrowed slightly, sinking into deep thought. Logically speaking, Yin Hui's master soul force was only at the early stage of rank 7, still a long way from peak rank 7. Why was there a peak rank 7 soul force in his sea of consciousness? It seemed like the peak rank 7 soul force in Yin Hui's master's sea of consciousness was not the same as his early stage rank 7 soul force. There was a huge difference between the two. Peak rank. 7 soul force should not be Yin Hui's masters, but left behind by someone else. In an instant, Ningyu made a judgment. The peak rank, 7 soul force in Yin Hui's master's sea of consciousness was very likely the culprit. If he wanted Yin Hui's master to wake up, he could only expel the peak rank, 7 soul force in his sea of consciousness, or else the situation would become very bad. Sun Jiangwen, Alchemist Hall Master. After thinking about it, Ningyu said in a low voice, I need your help. Ningyu's soul force was only at peak rank 5. It was very difficult to expel the peak rank 7 soul force in Yin Hui's master's sea of consciousness. What is it? Sun Jiangwen and the Alchemist Hall Master flew out from the storage ring and answered. See if you can expel the peak rank 7 soul force in his sea of consciousness without touching the early stage rank 7 soul force in his sea of consciousness. Ningyu pointed at the old man on the bed and said. Hearing Ningyu's words, Sun Jiangwen and the Alchemist Hall Master immediately released their senses, carefully probing Yin Hui's master's sea of consciousness. After a while, they both withdrew their senses at the same time. After looking at each other, the Alchemist Hall Master said, the owner of the peak rank 7 soul force is very smart. If you want to expel the soul force he left behind, you must touch the old man's early stage rank 7 soul force. I know all this. I just want to ask you if you have any ideas. Ningyu said in a low voice. There's a way, but the risk is a little high. The Alchemist Hall Master gritted his teeth and said, I only have 10% confidence. Tell me about it. Ningyu frowned slightly and said, my soul force is at the early stage rank 8 soul force, slightly stronger than the old man's soul force in his sea of consciousness. I can slowly extract the peak rank 7 soul force from the old man's sea of consciousness. The Alchemist Hall Master explained, in the process, I can't guarantee that I won't touch the old man's early stage rank 7 soul force. Chapter 554. Make Trouble. A martial artist whose soul power control is even stronger than yours? Ningyu was slightly startled, and then said, which stage of soul suppression can you achieve? The first stage or the second stage? So you also know the division of soul suppression. Hearing this, the Alchemist Hall leader looked at Ningyu in astonishment and replied, I can barely use the second stage of soul suppression, and I'm not very familiar with it yet. The second stage of soul suppression, Ningyu murmured. Now, Ningyu could basically use the second stage of soul suppression and could even try to use the third stage. In other words, Ningyu's control over his soul force was even better than the Hall Master. Tell me what you plan to do. Ningyu did not tell the Alchemist Hall Master that he was a suitable candidate. Instead, he remained calm and collected. As long as you can find a martial artist with a stronger soul power control than me, I can release my soul power control and let that martial artist control it. The Alchemist Hall Master explained. If that's the case, there's at least a 50% chance of expelling the peak 7th grade soul force in the old man's knowledge sea. I can also contribute my soul force. That way, the success rate will increase by another 10%, Sun Jiangwen added. Although the strength of Sun Jiangwen's soul force was not as strong as that of the Alchemist Hall Master, it had reached the peak of grade 7, which was a considerable help. That's not a bad choice. Ningyu frowned as he considered the pros and cons. Although the strength of his soul force was only at the peak of the 5th grade, as a peak of the 9th grade alchemist in his previous life, his control over his soul force surpassed the majority of alchemists. Controlling both the Alchemist Hall Master and Sun Jiangwen's soul power at the same time might be somewhat difficult. However, for Ningyu, it was not too much of a problem. How about this? I will control your soul force and expel the peak 7th grade soul force from the old man's sea of consciousness. After a while, Ningyu said, release your soul power, I'll control it. You? Hearing Ningyu's words, the Alchemist Hall Master and Sun Jiangwen revealed shocked expressions. Ningyu's soul power was only at the peak of rank 5. Compared to them, it was not just a little bit weaker. How could they believe what Ningyu said? Moreover, this matter was of great importance. If Ningyu's stubbornness caused the old man's death, they might even be blamed for it. Therefore, they did not want to hand over the control of their soul force. At the very least, they did not want to hand over the control of their soul force before confirming that Ningyu's soul force control exceeded theirs. If you don't believe me, you can use soul suppression on me. Seeing the expressions of the Alchemist Hall Master and the others, Ningyu said, "Use your strongest soul suppression." The Alchemist Hall Master and Sun Jiangwen exchanged glances once again. However, this time, it was Sun Jiangwen and not the Alchemist Hall Master who exerted soul suppression. Their thinking was very simple. Sun Jiangwen's soul suppression might be slightly weaker, so it wouldn't hurt Ningyu. Swoosh! In the next moment, Sun Jiangwen exerted his peak rank, 7 soul power, and tried to suppress Ningyu. Don't waste time. Use your strongest soul suppression. Ningyu stood still, not affected by Sun Jiangwen's soul power at all. Instead, he said impatiently, "All right." Seeing that Ningyu was safe and sound, Sun Jiangwen was a little surprised. After the surprise, he immediately increased the soul suppression and directly used the second stage of soul suppression. Come out. Facing Sun Jiangwen's second stage of soul suppression, Ningyu exerted his peak rank, 5 soul power, and formed a soul power shield in front of him. After all, Sun Jiangwen's soul power was at the peak rank, 7 soul power. When he used the second stage of soul suppression, it was not easy for Ningyu to resist. What? Seeing that Ningyu easily resisted his soul suppression, Sun Jiangwen's eyes widened and his face was full of surprise. What kind of monster was Ningyu? How could he even resist his soul suppression? It seemed that Ningyu still had some strength left. Don't waste time. Quickly exert your soul power and let me control it. Ningyu waved his hand and gestured to the alchemist and the others to hurry up. For Yin Hui's master, time was life. If this dragged on, you might very well die. All right. This time, the alchemist and Sun Jiangwen did not refuse. They immediately exerted their soul power and handed the control over to Ningyu. Thank you. Ningyu expressed his gratitude and directly controlled the alchemist's early rank, 8 soul power to carefully enter Yin Hui's master's knowledge ocean. The peak rank, 7 soul power, and the early rank, 7 soul power in Yin Hui's master's knowledge ocean had basically touched each other. A little carelessness and all would be for naught. Therefore, in the process of expelling the peak rank, 7 soul power, Ningyu was highly focused and did not dare to slack off or be careless. In fact, Ningyu did not even dare to use his hands to wipe the beads of sweat on his forehead. He was afraid that something might go wrong. While Ningyu was treating Yin Hui's master, Fur Ball lazily stretched its limbs. Shortly after, as if it had discovered a new continent, all its fur stood up. Xiao! In the next moment, Fur Ball's figure flashed and directly jumped onto Ningyu's shoulder. Fur Ball. Ningyu was fully focused on expelling the peak rank, 7 soul power in Yin Hui's master's knowledge ocean. When Fur Ball suddenly jumped onto his shoulder, he was naturally shocked. In fact, he almost failed at the last moment. With Fur Ball doing this, Ningyu immediately withdrew the alchemist's master's soul power from Yin Hui's knowledge ocean and said to Fur Ball, "What the hell are you doing?" Woof woof. Being scolded so harshly by Ningyu, Fur Ball softly barked a few times and extended a small paw to point at the old man on the bed. Then, Fur Ball pointed at himself and barked a few more times. You mean you can expel the peak rank, 7 soul power from his knowledge ocean? Ningyu was slightly dumbfounded and hesitantly asked. Woof woof. Fur Ball revealed an excited expression. How confident are you? Ningyu pondered for a moment and asked. No matter what, Ningyu could not joke around with Yin Hui's master's life. Although it would be a little difficult for him to treat, there was still a 50% chance of success. Woof. Fur Ball revealed a furry little paw and extended a furry little paw. Perhaps seeing that Ningyu was not too satisfied, Fur Ball extended another little paw. Are you kidding me? Ningyu opened his mouth, a little confused. Only Furball dared to say that he was 100% confident. If it were anyone else, they would not dare to be so confident. Woof woof. Looking at Ningyu's expression, Furball's legs suddenly exerted force, and it jumped off from Ningyu's shoulder. Furball. Furball's sudden action caused Ningyu's expression to change. Yin Hui's master was heavily injured. If Furball messed around, the consequences would be unthinkable. Therefore, Ningyu's first thought was to stop Furball. He could not allow it to treat him recklessly. What? Chapter 555. Chapter 555. Chapter 555. One's work is complete. Whoosh. Furball was very fast, jumping onto Yin Hui's master's shoulder in the blink of an eye. Afterward, Furball extended its two little claws, one on Master Yin Hui's forehead and the other on his chest. Hiss! Ningyu could clearly sense two weak streams of air flowing out from Furball's claws, entering Yin Hui's master's body. One stream of qi entered Yin Hui's master's sea of consciousness, and the other stream of qi entered his 5 viscera and 6 bowels. Ningyu had never expected such a change. You really do have some skill. At first, Ningyu had been rather worried that Furball would act recklessly, but now it seemed that he had been a little too nervous. This was because after a stream of air entered Yin Hui's master's sea of consciousness, it erupted with an extremely powerful, devouring force. In other words, this stream of air was almost plundering the peak 7th grade soul force. Based on this speed, it would only take 10 minutes for the peak 7th grade soul force in Master Yin Hui's sea of consciousness to be completely devoured. Moreover, Master Yin Hui's own early-stage rank, 7 soul force, was not affected at all. This was the scariest. It should be noted that not even Ningyu dared to say that he had a 100% chance of extracting the peak 7th grade soul force from Yin Hui's master's mind, but Furball was able to do it so easily. The black liquid in my 5 viscera and 6 bowels is also being expelled. Suddenly, Ningyu noticed the situation in front of Yin Hui's master's chest. Traces of black liquid flowed out from his chest. Although the speed was slow, it would definitely be completely drained within 10 minutes. Since Furball's treatment was effective, Ningyu did not say anything else. Instead, he paid close attention to Yin Hui's master's condition, ready to help at any time. The Alchemist Hall Master and Sun Jiangwen were already dumbfounded. They stared blankly at Furball, who looked like a god, not daring to believe their eyes. After living for so long, he had really lived like a dog. Now, he was even worse than a dog. Pucci. While Harry Ball was trying his best to save Yin Hui's master, there was a secret room in the Alchemy Union in the capital of the Great Xia Kingdom. An old man suddenly spat out a mouthful of dark red blood, and his aura weakened slightly. He's not dead yet. The old man wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, his face filled with viciousness. I shouldn't have held back in the first place. If we don't remove the roots, the weeds will grow again with the spring breeze. After the pill forging competition, you must— The old man's eyes revealed a ruthless glint as he said, "Forget it. I'll send someone to investigate now to avoid any unforeseen circumstances." With that, the old man got up and left the room. Ningyu was unaware of what was happening in the Alchemy Union. At this moment, his gaze was fixed on Yin Hui's master. As time passed, the peak rank, 7 soul force in Yin Hui's master's sea of consciousness was almost completely taken away. Pucci. Suddenly, Yin Hui's master opened his eyes and spat out a mouthful of black blood. Cough, cough. Master Yin Hui coughed twice before turning his head to look at Furball on his shoulder and shouting, "This, Senior, don't panic." Seeing Yin Hui's master's action, Ningyu hurriedly said, "The reason why you could wake up is all because of his help." All because of his help? Hearing Ningyu's words, Yin Hui's master was stunned on the spot and put down his right hand that was just raised. In the beginning, Yin Hui's master was skeptical. However, when he felt the changes in his internal organs, his expression was abnormally interesting. Swoosh! Right at this moment, Furball retracted its pair of small claws at the same time, its face full of exhaustion. Seeing this, Ningyu immediately took out a supreme grade essence crystal from his storage ring and threw it to Furball. Furball did not stand on ceremony with Ningyu. It carried the supreme grade essence crystal and flew to the other side, starting to chew on it. I can't believe that the injuries that have troubled me for so long are actually cured. Yin Hui's master slightly checked the condition of his body, took a deep breath, and said to Ningyu, I can't thank you enough for your great kindness. I, Dan Xingzi, will remember this kindness. Dan Xingzi? Ningyu was slightly stunned. This was the first time he heard the old man's real name. However, Ningyu seemed to have heard the name Dan Xingzi somewhere before. What? You were Dan Xingzi? Ningyu didn't know who Dan Xingzi was, but the Alchemy Master Hall Master and Sun Jiangwen were very clear. They were from the Corpsine sect, and the Corpsine sect was entrenched in the Great Xia Kingdom. They were very clear about the elite alchemy masters of the Great Xia Kingdom. You know Senior Dan Xingzi? Ningyu frowned. I've heard of him. Sun Jiangwen looked at Dan Xingzi and explained, a long time ago, 2 alchemy geniuses appeared in the Great Xia Kingdom. One is Dan Xingzi, and the other is this one, Dan Xingzi. After listening to Sun Jiangwen's story, Ningyu revealed a solemn expression. It turned out that Dan Xingzi and Dan Xingzi were both alchemy geniuses. Back then, they were known as the people with the highest hopes of advancing to the 8th grade alchemy master in the Great Xia Kingdom. However, Dan Xingzi suddenly disappeared overnight. From then on, it was as if he had evaporated from the world. No one knew his whereabouts. Someone once asked Dan Xingzi, but Dan Xingzi kept his mouth shut about this matter. Furthermore, if anyone mentioned Dan Xingzi in front of Dan Xingzi would fly into a rage. As time passed, the name Dan Xingzi became a taboo in the capital and was gradually forgotten by everyone. It's just a name. I didn't think that someone would still remember it. Dan Xingzi seemed to be more open-minded as he smiled and said, How many years has it been? I finally have the possibility to stand up again. Senior, your legs? Ningyu pointed at Dan Xingzi's legs and said, It's fine. My soul spirit force has already recovered. As for the injuries on my legs, I can slowly treat them. Dan Xingzi waved his hand and said, Ningyu, I can already try to refine some elixirs now. If you have any needs in the future, you can mention it. I will help you refine elixirs unconditionally. After so many years, I might not have other things, but I still have quite a lot of herbs and essence crystals. Because the Alchemist Hall Master and Sun Jiangwen concealed their soul spirit force, and because Dan Xingzi had just recovered his soul spirit perception, he didn't notice the abnormality of the Alchemist Hall Master and Sun Jiangwen. Until now, Dan Xingzi still thought that the two of them were ordinary people. Senior, the one who healed your injuries was Furball. It has nothing to do with me. Ningyu felt that he couldn't take Furball's credit for himself. Dan Xingzi looked at Furball, who was eating the supreme grade essence crystals, and said hesitantly, I've said it before. I might not have other things, but I still have quite a lot of essence crystals. Swoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, Dan Xingzi swung his sleeves, and a storage bag flew out and went towards Ningyu. Ningyu, pass these essence crystals to Furball. Furball for me. Also, tell him that if he needs essence crystals in the future, he can come and ask me anytime. I still have some left. Chapter 556. Enemy Attack Hiss. After receiving the storage pouch, Ningyu slightly released his soul perception into the storage pouch. As soon as his soul perception entered the storage pouch, Ningyu couldn't help but gasp, and his eyes revealed an extremely shocked expression. The reason why Ningyu was shocked wasn't because there were few origin crystals in the storage pouch. Too many. It was truly too many. The origin crystals in the storage pouch were all transcendent grade. Ningyu roughly glanced at it and noticed that there were at least 100,000 transcendent grade origin crystals. Dan Xingzi gave away so many origin crystals just like that, and he didn't even bat an eyelid. That's senior. Pardon me for asking. Ningyu said to Dan Xingzi, how much do you have in stock? Dan Xingzi didn't answer Ningyu at the first possible moment. Instead, he looked at the Alchemist Hall Master and Sun Jiangwen, and then cast an inquiring gaze at Ningyu. We're on the same side. Ningyu knew what Dan Xingzi meant, and he indicated that he could speak without worry. Actually, it's not too much. Since Ningyu said that the Alchemist Hall Master and the others were on the same side, Dan Xingzi didn't ask anymore, and he said, the origin crystals in the storage pouch are only a tenth of my stock. So much. Hearing Dan Xingzi's words, Ningyu's mind started to work. The Red Fiend Sword needed at least 200,000 transcendent-grade origin crystals to advance to the Monarch rank. Dan Xingzi possessed 1,000,000 transcendent-grade origin crystals. If he could borrow these origin crystals, then the Red Fiend Sword's advancement to the Monarch rank would be a sure thing. Senior, I need a large amount of transcendent-grade origin crystals for the time being. I wonder if... Ningyu hesitated and said, lend me some first. Lend? Dan Xingzi raised his brows, and he revealed a displeased expression. I won't lend them to you. Then, Dan Xingzi changed the topic and said, how many transcendent-grade origin crystals do you need? I can give them to you unconditionally. 200,000. When he heard Dan Xingzi's first sentence, Ningyu felt slightly awkward. But after hearing his second sentence, Ningyu secretly thought that ginger was indeed spicier with age. He directly stretched out 2 fingers and said, I need 200,000 supreme origin crystals in 3 days. Within 3 days, Dan Xingzi fell into deep thought when he heard this. After a while, Dan Xingzi said, it's rather troublesome within 3 days because my transcendent-grade origin crystal isn't in the capital, and it'll take 3 days to travel there and back. Furthermore, only I can open that place. If anyone else tries to forcefully open it, that place will explode on its own. Looks like I'll have to figure it out myself. A look of disappointment appeared on Ningyu's face. 200,000 transcendent-grade essence crystals. It seemed like he had to think of a way himself. Fortunately, Dan Xingzi took out 100,000 transcendent-grade essence crystals. Next, he only needed to find another 100,000 transcendent-grade essence crystals. As the saying goes, a penny stumps a hero. 100,000 transcendent-grade origin crystals was enough to give Ningyu a headache for a long time. Bang! Just as Ningyu was feeling a little disappointed, a muffled sound suddenly rang out from outside the room. Oh no! The moment the muffled sound rang out, Ningyu's expression changed drastically. He had no time to think and immediately rushed out of the room. Let's go! The Alchemist Hall Master and Sun Jiangwen looked at each other. Then both rose from the ground and followed closely behind Ningyu. Let me give you a piece of advice. If you know what's good for you, hurry up and scram. Inside the Miracle Physician shop, a middle-aged man in his 40s or 50s casually pushed Yanhui back and said to Lu Wei in a sinister manner, seeing that you're a woman, I won't attack you for the time being. Otherwise, I'll let you know why flowers are so red. You can't go in. Yanhui climbed up from the ground with difficulty and stood in front of Lu Wei. I can't go in? The middle-aged man's lips curled up, and he said with a smile, Haha, looks like you won't shed a tear until you see the coffin. Fine, I'll show you what I'm made of. As soon as he finished speaking, the middle-aged man suddenly dashed out. Swoosh! The middle-aged man's speed was very fast. In the blink of an eye, he arrived beside Yanhui. Bang! The middle-aged man kicked out, and it landed squarely on Yanhui's chest. Yanhui was already severely injured. Now that he was kicked in the chest by the middle-aged man, his body flew out and slammed hard into the wall behind him. Puffed. A crisp sound rang out. Yanhui spat out a mouthful of dark red blood. His face became extremely pale, without any color of blood. You can't go in. The fat boy was rather daring. He was not frightened by the middle-aged man and shouted, You're a bad person. I can't let you hurt Master. Master? Hearing that, the middle-aged man's heart shook and he murmured, Looks like what Dan Xingzi said was true. It should be this place. Suppressing the excitement in his heart, the middle-aged man did not take the fat boy seriously. Instead, he said to Lu Wei again, I don't want to kill, but don't force me. You have two choices now. 1. Leave voluntarily. 2. Be killed by me. Swoosh. In the next moment, the middle-aged man displayed his aura and crazily pressed down on Lu Wei. Oof. A mere early yin-yang realm martial artist dares to behave atrociously here. However, just as the middle-aged man displayed his aura, a cold snort came from the room. Swoosh! After the cold snort, a figure instantly appeared beside the middle-aged man and threw a punch at his head. Oh no! Even though the middle-aged man was at the early stage of yin-yang realm, he was shocked by the violent primordial qi contained in his fist. He did not dare to be careless. He quickly retracted his aura and gathered all the yuan energy in his body on his wrist. With a backhand punch, his fist collided with the figure's fist. Crack! When the two fists collided, the middle-aged man only felt a huge force wreaking havoc on his fist. Moreover, it seemed like it was spreading to his entire body. The middle-aged man did not dare to be careless. He quickly took a few steps back and used his skill to resist the force of the fist. Ningyu. Seeing the familiar figure that suddenly appeared, Lu Wei was pleasantly surprised. It's good that you're fine. Seeing that Lu Wei was fine, Ningyu relaxed a little. Harry Ball is in the room. Go find him. I have something to take care of. Be careful. Lu Wei knew what Ningyu was going to do next, so she did not stay and directly entered the room. Go and check on Yin Hui's injuries. After Lu Wei left, Ningyu said to the alchemist and Sun Jiangwen, note down every injury on his body. I will need it later. After doing all this, Ningyu walked towards the middle-aged man. After a while, Ningyu came to the middle-aged man's side and said lightly, tell me, why are you here? You're only a mid-primal core martial artist. How dare you behave atrociously in front of me? Although the middle-aged man knew that Ningyu was very strong, he did not think that Ningyu was a match for him. As far as he was concerned, the reason he was at a slight disadvantage in the battle with Ningyu earlier was entirely because of his carelessness. Chapter 557. Taste it all over if you know what's good for you. Hurry up and F***ck off. Otherwise, I'll kill you as well. When the middle-aged man finished speaking, Ningyu's expression turned completely gloomy. There was a path to heaven, but you refused to take it. There's no door to hell, but you barged in. I know even if you don't say it. You must have been sent by Dan Shinzi. Ningyu stared at the middle-aged man's eyes, hoping to find some clues from his eyes. Actually, when he heard Sun Jiangwen's introduction of Dan Shinzi in the room, Ningyu had vaguely determined that Dan Shinzi's injury was most likely related to Dan Shinzi. Now that the middle-aged man had suddenly appeared, Ningyu had no choice but to suspect Dan Shinzi. As expected, the middle-aged man's eyes flickered indeterminately when he heard Ningyu's words, and a look of surprise appeared on his face. However, the look of surprise only lasted for a moment, and the middle-aged man said coldly, I have no idea what you're talking about at all. I only came here for one purpose, and that is to see the pill refinement master in the room. Hee, I really admire you. Ningyu smiled at first, then he changed the topic and said, I'm just admiring your stupidity. Opportunities are fought for by yourself. You can't blame me for not grasping it. Ha ha ha. The middle-aged man laughed out loud and said coldly, Who do you think you are to speak to me like that? I didn't want to start a massacre, but all signs indicate that the pill refinement master in the room is the person I'm looking for. Since that's the case, all of you must die today. Boom. In the next moment, the middle-aged man took out a medicinal pill and stuffed it into his mouth. Then a monstrous aura erupted from his body. Compared to the aura from before, it had forcefully increased by a level this time. In other words, the middle-aged man had erupted with the aura of an early-stage yin-yang stage earlier, and now he had erupted with the aura of an intermediate-stage yin-yang stage. Forcefully increasing your cultivation with medicinal pills? Don't you know that the side effects are severe? Ningyu frowned. Now that things have come to this, I won't hide anything from you." The middle-aged man said gloomily, "I presume you already know that the martial artist in the room is Dan Xingzi, and I was entrusted by Dan Xingzi this time to take Dan Xingzi's head." "Irrelevant answer." Ning Yu shook his head, then rose from the ground and arrived beside the middle-aged man in the blink of an eye. The primal chi in his sea of consciousness surged out and gathered on his wrist. Ning Yu punched out, bringing with it a violent yuan chi gale towards the middle-aged man's chest. "If I was still at the early yin-yang realm, I might not be able to defeat you. But now that I'm at the mid-yin-yang realm, it's more than enough to kill you." As he watched Ning Yu approach him, a cold expression appeared on the middle-aged man's face. Then, the middle-aged man clenched his right hand into a fist, which also contained a violent fluctuation of yuan qi. Without any deviation, it collided with Ning Yu's fist. Bang! The two fists collided, but this time, they did not separate. Instead, the two fists were stuck together. "This day next year will be the anniversary of your death." The middle-aged man gritted his teeth, and the primal chi in his sea of consciousness poured out and entered Ning Yu's fist through his fist. "You want to compare the density of primal chi with me?" The corners of Ning Yu's mouth curled up slightly. Immediately, a wave of primal chi that was no weaker than the middle-aged man's swept out of his sea of consciousness and gathered on his fist. "What?" Seeing the even more violent fluctuation of primal chi on Ning Yu's fist, the middle-aged man revealed a horrified expression. This was because as the primal chi on Ning Yu's fist appeared, he realized that he was already at a slight disadvantage. This was the most unacceptable thing to him. One had to know that he was at the early yin-yang realm, and he had used elixirs to raise his cultivation to the mid-yin-yang realm in a short period of time. Ning Yu was only at the mid-primal core realm, so why was his primal chi even denser than his? "This day, next year, will be the anniversary of my death. Many people have said this to me." As Ning Yu increased the flow of primal chi, he said to the middle-aged man, "But unfortunately, all the warriors who have said this to me, without exception, have all gone to the same place." "What place?" The middle-aged man was stunned as he asked. "The underworld," Ning Yu said calmly. "It's not that easy to kill me." The middle-aged man could not just sit and wait for death. Not only did he gather all the primal chi in his body on his fist, he even burned his blood essence in an attempt to kill Ning Yu. "All right." At this moment, Sun Jiangwen said in a low voice, "Yin Hui's injuries are very serious. More than 10 bones in his body are broken, and his soul has suffered a very serious injury." Hearing this, Ning Yu's expression became very ugly. He had originally thought that Yin Hui had only suffered some superficial injuries. Who would have thought that even his soul power had been injured? Soul power was different from other things. Once it was injured, it would cost a lot to heal it. What injuries did Yin Hui suffer? Return them all at once. The primal chi in Ning Yu's sea of consciousness poured out and surged into his fist. Bang! Originally, the middle-aged man could still be evenly matched with Ning Yu, but as the primal chi in Ning Yu's fist increased, he gradually fell into a disadvantage. In the next moment, Ning Yu's fist suddenly exerted force and directly pushed the middle-aged man back a few feet. A metallic taste came from his throat, causing the middle-aged man to spit out a mouthful of blood. His breathing became somewhat weak. "Don't just stand there. What injuries did Yin Hui suffer? Give him all of them." Ning Yu waved his hand, indicating that the Alchemist Hall Master could make his move. Hearing this, the Alchemist Hall Master's figure immediately flashed and appeared in front of the middle-aged man. A mere Yuan Dan. The middle-aged man thought that the Alchemist Hall Master was just an ordinary martial artist and snorted coldly. However, before he could finish his sentence, his eyes widened as he stared at the martial artist in front of him with a face full of shock. Peak advanced yin-yang stage. Only now did the middle-aged man wake up, as if from a dream. It turned out that this martial artist was the most amazing existence. His cultivation and strength far surpassed that of Ning Yu. However, The middle-aged man's reaction was clearly a little too late. After receiving Ning Yu's order, the Alchemist Hall Master immediately displayed his initial grade 8 soul power and unscrupulously pressed against the middle-aged man's sea of consciousness. The middle-aged man's soul power was only at the initial grade 6 soul power. How could he withstand the pressure of the Alchemist Hall Master's soul power? The result was obvious. The middle-aged man let out a miserable shriek like a pig being slaughtered. Then, like a deflated balloon, he sat paralyzed on the ground. Did the middle-aged man think that he would be safe just by sitting paralyzed on the ground? The answer was obviously no. This was because the Alchemist Hall Master's order was very clear. Whatever injuries Yin Hui suffered, he had to let the middle-aged man suffer. Just now, he had only crippled the middle-aged man's soul power. Next, he had to break a dozen of his bones. Crack, crack, crack. The Alchemist Hall Master did things swiftly and decisively, without the slightest bit of hesitation. Chapter 558. Settle every time the hall leader punched. A bone in the middle-aged man's body would be broken. After a while, the hall leader stopped. More than 10 bones in the middle-aged man's body had already been broken. You have one last chance to live. Ningyu approached the middle-aged man and said slowly, "State Dan Shinzi's cultivation level and the strength of his soul." "Ha! Hiss!" The middle-aged man laughed wildly, but he did not expect it to agitate the wounds on his body, causing him to grimace in pain. Even so, the middle-aged man still laughed evilly. "It seems that you are still very afraid of Dan Shinzi." As he spoke, the middle-aged man's gaze swept across the crowd. The middle-aged man then said coldly, "To tell you the truth, not only is Dan Shinzi's soul strong, but his strength is also heaven-defying. Dan Shinzi only needs to use half of his strength to get rid of you small fries. Let me give you a piece of advice. If you know what's good for you, hurry up and let me go. Dan Shinzi already knows that I'm here. If I'm killed here, Dan Shinzi will definitely not let you go." Sigh. Hearing this, Ningyu sighed softly and said, "I was thinking of sparing your life, but since you're asking for it, I can only apologize." Whoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, Ningyu's eyes turned cold. A blue flame appeared on his fist, and he instantly charged forward. "I'll let you have a taste of the azure spiritual fire." Ningyu growled as he threw a punch at the middle-aged man. Looking at the expanding flames in his eyes, the middle-aged man's eyes revealed a hint of despair. He was currently heavily injured. Not only was his soul damaged, but more than 10 bones in his body had been broken. He could only watch helplessly as Ningyu attacked him. "My friend Ningyu, have mercy." However, just as Ningyu's fist was 10 centimeters away from the middle-aged man, a voice suddenly rang in his ears. Whoosh! Ningyu raised his eyebrows when he heard this familiar voice, and he immediately stopped. "This is a grudge between me and Dan Shinzi. I want to settle it myself." Dan Shinzi's voice rang out in a timely manner. "Leave this person to me. I promise I'll handle it properly." Since Senior has spoken, I wouldn't dare to disobey. Ningyu glared at the middle-aged man, then took a few steps back and ignored him. Ningyu's sudden action caused the middle-aged man to be somewhat dumbfounded. Originally, he thought that he would definitely die today. Who would have thought that Ningyu would not kill him? Although he didn't know why Ningyu stopped, it was still good to be alive. "Sun Jingwen, how confident are you in curing Yin Hui's soul force?" Since Dan Xingzi wanted to take over the middle-aged man, Ningyu no longer asked about it. Instead, he started to care about Yin Hui. Yin Hui's soul force was injured by the middle-aged man, and it seemed to be more serious. "It's not a big problem to cure it," Sun Jingwen said hesitantly. "It's just that it will take a long time." "How long?" Ningyu asked with a frown. "Around 7 days," Sun Jingwen answered. 7 days, huh? Ningyu sank into contemplation. Tomorrow was the day the alchemy competition would be held. He naturally did not have time to stay here and treat Yin Hui. How about this? Alchemy Hall Master will stay behind to treat Yin Hui, and also look after Dan Xingzi at the same time to ensure his safety. Thinking about it, Ningyu said, "Contact me anytime if there's any problem." Swoosh. After giving the instructions, Ningyu dashed into the room with a swoosh. "Ningyu, today's matter is all thanks to you." Seeing Ningyu enter, Dan Xingzi cupped his fists and said, "I owe you another favor. When I recover, I'll be at your disposal at any time." Today's events made Dan Xingzi completely see through it. People who verbally treated you well might not necessarily treat you well. Only when something happened would one know who treated you well sincerely. Back then, his relationship with Dan Xingzi was very good. In the end, wasn't he still framed the same way? Not only did Ningyu save him, he even saved Yin Hui and the fat boy. It could be said that if not for Ningyu rushing over today, they would be dead for sure. "Senior, my relationship with Yin Hui is very good. Moreover, this matter is just lifting a finger for me." Ningyu waved his hand, indicating that Dan Xingzi need not take it to heart. "This place is already exposed. Why don't, for the middle-aged man to be able to find this place, in Ningyu's view, the rest of the people would definitely be able to find it too. If Dan Xingzi continued to stay here, it would inevitably attract Dan Xingzi's attention. This place is just a foothold of mine in the capital." Dan Xingzi smiled and said, "Don't look at how I'm already in dire straits. In the capital, I still have some friends. There are other footholds?" Hearing Dan Xingzi's words, Ningyu's heart stirred. Then he said, "I have 2 friends who lack a foothold. I wonder if no problem. Forget about 2. Even if it's 8 or 10, I can arrange it properly too." Dan Xingzi patted his chest and guaranteed. Wandering in the capital all year round and not being discovered by Dan Xingzi, it was enough to show that Dan Xingzi still had some power. Letting Dan Xingzi help look after some of Lu Wei's parents, Ningyu was more at ease. Moreover, Ningyu already decided to leave the Alchemy Master Hall Master behind. The Alchemy Master Hall Master was a peak late-stage Yin-Yang realm martial artist with formidable strength. Even if something happened, at least there would be someone to take care of and could persist until he rushed over. Whoosh! In the next instant, Ningyu flicked his sleeves and threw the storage ring into the air. 2 beams of light shot out from the storage ring. Immediately, 2 figures landed steadily in the room. These 2 figures were none other than precisely Lu Wei's parents. However, at this moment, Lu Wei's mother was being held in her father's arms, and her breathing was very weak. A magic treasure that can store people. The instant Lu Wei's parents appeared, Dan Xingzi's expression changed slightly, and his face was filled with surprise. After a brief moment of shock, Dan Xingzi shifted his gaze to Lu Wei's parents. If I'm not wrong, they should be the current Pavilion Master and Pavilion Master's wife. Dan Xingzi sighed softly and said, "I've also heard about what happened in Snow Domain Pavilion. If I recover to my peak state, perhaps I can help her find the revival pill." "Your Senior Dan Xingzi?" Compared to Dan Xingzi's surprise, Lu Durong was even more shocked. After all, Lu Durong was the Pavilion Master of Snow Domain Pavilion. He was rather familiar with Dan Xingzi's deeds. "I didn't expect so many people to remember me." Dan Xingzi smiled bitterly and said, "Pavilion Master Lu, don't worry. Although I can't help her find the revival pill now, I can temporarily seal Madame Lu's internal injuries and buy her a month's time." "If that's the case, thank you, Senior Dan Xingzi." Lu Durong revealed a joyful expression. Dan Xingzi was a famous alchemy master in the Great Xia Kingdom. Whether it was his personal strength or his connections, he was top-notch in the Great Xia Kingdom. With his help, there would be more opportunities. "Senior, we can't stay here for long. In my opinion, it's better to leave as soon as possible." That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.